Now calling the April 24th, 2024 meeting of the Santa Rosa City Schools Board to order. We will start with public comment on closed session items. These are items B1, public employee appointment and employment. B2, public employee performance evaluations. B3, public employee discipline, dismissal and release. B4, conference with labor negotiator. B5, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. And B6, student expulsions. Do we have any public comment blue cards?
President Medina, there are no blue cards.
Seeing none, we will now recess into closed session. Good. We are now reconvening the April 24th, 2024 meeting of Santa Rosa City School Board. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our land acknowledgement. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Now, please remain standing. And if SRJC Machistas Erandi Hernandez Aguilar and Laura Escutia could come forward to do our public land acknowledgement.
Hello? Okay. Hiari kurini erandi hipure matiku kretengun ucharwandakwa.
Biali na notoka lauritsin ni iwipa podepecha huanawa masawalmen.
We must recognize and acknowledge that here at Santa Rosa City Schools, we are standing on territorial traditional homelands of Pomo and Coast Miwok relatives. We also want to acknowledge and recognize that no matter where we are in the United States, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Mexico, and all other countries, we are always standing and occupying stolen land. We would like to recognize both our northern and southern indigenous relatives who still stand here today and have always migrated and cared for this place. This is even before the violent creations of the United States and its borders that we have today, or even the laws that were created like the Treaty of Guadalupe.
We are not offering this land acknowledgement because it's become an institutional trend. We are offering this acknowledgement because we are Purepecha and Nawa. We have been taught by our relatives to always greet the land that we are on. We acknowledge the land, all of its creations, all of its natural beauty, all of our lives, and this gathering itself from Creator as a place and something to enjoy. Tlaxcamati.
Thank you.
Gracias. You may all be seated now. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to a report of actions taken in closed session. There were none. We will now move on to items considered in closed session for action in open session. First, under item B5, can we have a motion to approve the recommended settlement on the PP versus Santa Rosa City Schools case?
Second.
Moved by trustee McNally, seconded by trustee Flores. Let's go to the vote.
Trustee McNally. Aye. Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Hi.
Trustee Flores. I'm sorry, President Medina.
Aye. Now move on to item B6. Could I get a motion on case number, to approve the recommended action on case number 2023/24-14?
I move to approve case number 2023-24-14.
Second.
Moved by trustee Flores, seconded by trustee De La Torre. Vote, please.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Could I get a motion on case to approve the recommendation on case 2023/24-20?
I move to approve case number 2023-24-20.
Second.
Moved by trustee Flores, second by trustee McNally. A vote, please.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Now we will move on to statements of abstention. Board, are there any statements of abstention? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C6, adjustments to the agenda. Any adjustments to the agenda, board? Superintendent Trinnell.
Yes, thank you, President Medina. I would like to ask the board consider to move items F5 and F6 on the agenda to be right after F1.
Let's see. And what about F, okay. So F5 and F6 before, right after F1? Or F6 and
Let me
F7?
amend. Yes, thank you, F6 and F7.
So F6 and F7 transition to be F2 and F3. Does anybody object to any of that? I'd also like to pull G11. Any other adjustments to the agenda? Are there any objections to those adjustments? See none. Okay, we'll move forward. Let's see. Before I move on, I was informed that the printed physical agendas that people have, item E was cut off. It didn't print correctly. Item E is right after the reports, and that's public comment. So I just want to make sure that people know that public comment is on the agenda right after reports. And if you want to make a public comment on a non-agendized item, make sure to grab a blue card and submit it. And right now, while we're still on the adjustments to the agenda, is there anybody that would like to make a comment on any of the consent items? Those are the G items. See none? Okay. So we will now move on to item C7, our special presentations for Student of the Month and certificated and classified employees. We will begin with Santa Rosa Middle School.
And Superintendent Chanel. My name is Sarah O'Connor, and I am the, as I say at school, loud and proud principal of Santa Rosa Middle School. It is my great honor to present eighth grader Evelyn Ortiz Dominguez as the Santa Rosa Middle School Student of the Month. Along with being an exemplary student with a GPA of 3.67, Evelyn is highly involved at Santa Rosa Middle School. Evelyn is part of our school leadership. She's a dedicated art student. She's a 3-sport athlete, being part of the girls' basketball team, volleyball team, and track team. Side note, she just left a track meet. My personal favorite, though, is that Evelyn is a bilingual ambassador, using her incredible gift of being bilingual to serve our school community. Evelyn is described by her teachers and the staff at Santa Rosa Middle School as someone who has great influence over her peers and always uses that influence in a positive way. She's someone that other students look up to and feel inspired by. Evelyn is an exemplary student, but she's also kind, polite, and always has a smile to share. When I met with Evelyn, she gave kudos to her teachers for their engaging lessons and unending support. She shared that she's excited to start at Santa Rosa High School, being part of their Art Quest program and playing soccer. In the big future, Evelyn said she can see herself pursuing psychology and becoming a lawyer. Teachers and staff agree that wherever Evelyn goes in life, she will have a positive impact on those around her. Congratulations, Evelyn, and thank you for being such a positive representative of the Santa Rosa Middle School community.
All right, so this is your award that will take up. And there's what about.
All right. It is my great honor to now present Roya Muslim as the Santa Rosa Middle School Classified Staff Member of the Year. Roya serves as the Santa Rosa Middle School Library Technician. To this end, she maintains an absolute organized and inviting library. I think the most inviting and organized in our district. Particularly in the last year, she has completely reorganized basically every single book. Her pride in her work is second to none. While Roya is a standout library tech, her presence at Santa Rosa Middle School is so much more. Roya is constantly, and I do mean constantly, dealing with all things Chromebook. She is loaning out chargers, determining what Chromebook belongs to who, locking them, sending them for repair, and checking out short-term and long-term loaners. The stories she hears about how technology was lost, where it might be, who any given device belongs to, and why, it would certainly drive any reasonable person mad. Roya is a rock. She's kind, helpful, and she always plays by the rules, which I appreciate. The staff who work with her describe her as positive, helpful, kind, and caring. Her willingness to help and her can-do attitude is contagious. We're lucky to have Roya. Congratulations, Roya, and thank you for being such an important and impactful presence in our school community. And there we go. All right. It is my great honor to now present Katie Lauren Dunbar as the Santa Rosa Middle School Certificated Staff of the Year. Katie Lauren teaches 7th and 8th grade science at Santa Rosa Middle School, and this year she also took on teaching a leadership class. For those of you that may not have taught lab sciences, preparing for and teaching 2 different lab science courses is a full teaching load. Adding leadership and all the excitement of student activities to that mix is absolutely next level. Perhaps next level is a good nickname for Katie Lauren. As her colleagues describe her work in the classroom, they talk about how she engages students in learning, her creativity and planning to ensure that all students are supported, and her collaboration with her team, that it's all next level. Having spent time in Katie Lauren's classroom, I am constantly in awe. She infuses humor into each aspect of the lesson, setting students at ease. She draws on the lived experience of students, intentionally connecting the world to science and the lesson at hand. Then she takes it to the next level. Katie Lauren is famous for campus-wide Earth Day celebrations, being the queen of field trips, and countless student activities and recognitions. She is responsible for so many of the fun and memorable activities that students will remember from their time at Santa Rosa Middle. A colleague wrote in their nomination of her, Katie Lauren is a teacher that I strive to emulate and replicate daily, monthly, and annually. She has a patience with students and always seems to say and do the right thing. Congratulations, Katie Lauren, on being such a positive representative of our school community.
Now we'll move on to Comstock.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Anna Trinnell. I am happy and proud to present our Student of the Month, Karen Flores. It is my great honor to present 8th grader Karen Flores as Hilliard Comstock Middle School Student of the Month. Along with being an exemplary student with a GPA nearing 4.0, she embodies what it means to be an extraordinary human. She is a kind, hardworking student who is ready and willing academically and socially to strive for excellence. Below is a sampling of what some of Karen's teachers shared when asked to describe her. Karen is a hard worker. She is thoughtful, persistent, dedicated, kind, and generous. She is a living ambassador of the ideas on our mission statement: safe, respectful, responsible, and kind. She isn't always the first student that people see, but she is always the first student who sees other people and acts to be of service. I feel honored to know her. This is from Miss Linkus. I first met Karen in my general 7th grade math class last year. I saw her amazing work ethic and her drive for education, so I pushed her to advanced math the following year. She was a little worried, but took on the challenge anyway. Karen has been doing amazing this year, as I expected. She is more confident in math and meets me in tutoring anytime she needs clarity. She takes pride in her work and has high expectations for learning. I am happy to nominate Karen Flores from Miss Comte. Karen's first impressed me as a reserved 7th grader who dedicated extensive time and effort to her tests, often needing extra time in quiet space, and was sent to my class to finish and concentrate. Her commitment has only intensified. She is currently excelling in advanced 8th grade math. Beyond her academics, Karen actively engages in extracurricular activities demonstrated by her diligent preparation for the ECMP application, a process I assisted with her, photocopying, witnessing her meticulous attention to detail. Karen's exceptional work ethic is matched by her character. She is thoughtful, persistent, dedicated, kind, and generous. Her pride in her work and her academic standards makes her a standout student deserving of recognition. Ms. Moore, congratulations, Karen, and thank you for being such a positive representative of Hilliard Comstock Middle School student body. Unfortunately, my classified employee of the month was unable to make it this evening. She is home with a sick child. Tonight, we are honoring Christina Artiega Gutierrez as our classified employee of the month. Here are some of her colleagues' thoughts and reflections about Christina. Christina is a former Comstock student, one of mine. Christina has done a wonderful job being our registrar, and she works hard at helping staff when grades are due. Christina has been invaluable when processing students' early college magnet program, ECMP, applications. She never complains, which is an asset when working with her. Christina always has a calm demeanor and has even helped staff with transitioning during parent meetings. She is a jewel. She is warm and welcoming to new families and students. If she can't get a hold of you by phone, she will come down to your classroom. She's timely at keeping us up to date about when students leave school and when we need to drop them from our grade books. Christina is very flexible and willing to help out when others are absent. For example, she has held down the front office alone with both Maria and Nana'i were out sick. When Allegra or Miss A were out, she was willing and agreed to grab a radio, take on the role of a campus supervisor, student advisor. She is always calm, soft-spoken, and very effective at her job. Congratulations, Christina, for being chosen. You have earned it. Another comment is, I don't know what I would do without Christina. She is always willing to help and is a great communicator. She carries herself with grace and professionalism and has the ability to remain calm, even on the most hectic days. Christina has been a solid rock on our campus when it comes to grades, running reports, troubleshooting issues, and so much more. This is why she is our Classified Employee of the Month for Hilliard-Comstock Middle School. She is valued. I will now present the Certificated Employee of the Month. Tonight, we are honoring Kwesi Comte as our Certificated Employee of the Month. Here are some of her colleagues' thoughts and reflections about Kwesi. Ms. Comte epitomizes innovation and deep connection in her approach to teaching. Not only does she expertly guide our students through Math 1, ensuring that they are well prepared for Math 2, but her dedication to co-teaching has also transformed our classroom into a hub of collaborative learning. Her ability to integrate state standards with advanced teaching practices, such as modeling mathematical work on dry erase surfaces and facilitating group work, is highly valued by both students and faculty. What truly distinguishes Ms. Comte is her unwavering commitment to accessible education for all students, EL gifted, newcomer, special education, and those under Section 504 plans. Her after-school tutoring for children of migrant workers and her availability during lunch breaks and personal time for one-on-one tutoring reflect her dedication to student success beyond the classroom. Ms. Comte's innovative methods extend to how she teaches students to tackle word problems fearlessly and encourages quiet students to take active roles in group settings. Our hallways proudly display the math artwork created by our students under her guidance, showcasing the creativity and understanding developed in her classes. Her empathetic connection with students not only enhances their academic performance, but also builds their confidence in their abilities. Ms. Comte's impact on our learning community is profound, making her an outstanding candidate for Teacher of the Month. Her efforts have created a dynamic and inclusive atmosphere that fosters curiosity, encourages academic excellence, and supports mutual growth and discovery. Kwesi shows consistent dedication in improving her pedagogy and has worked hard to develop curriculum and a classroom culture that best meets social, emotional, and learning needs of her students. She sets high expectations, but also scaffolds these goals with positive feedback and structured support. I think her efforts are proving successful as evidenced by her students' academic progress, and even more so by the strong connection she shares with them. She shows up at sporting events just because she cares, and she knows how much that means to our students, all of them, not just hers. These are the reasons why she is selected as our Certificated Employee of the Month.
Awesome. Congratulations again to everybody. We are now going to move on to our school site parent organization updates. We'll start with Comstock. I have Mireya de la Cruz from ELAC and PFSO representative as well.
Good evening, Board of Education and Superintendent Turnell. My name is Mireya de la Cruz. I work at Comstock Middle School as Family Engagement Facilitator. I'm here speaking on behalf of our parents. I would like to speak about some of the wonderful opportunities we have for our students at Comstock. We have general tutorial available to all students and subject matter, a grant-based multilingual tutorial for our English learners, focusing on improving language acquisition skills for their positive growth, an additional tutorial program offered by our migrant education program. All of these are offered Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. We also have math tutoring session during lunchtime for our students to complete their assignments and receive support. We conduct ELAC parent meetings for our English learner families where parents have access to knowledge and planning implementing academic curriculum, programs for general education, assessments of learning outcomes, and state-mandated assessments. Our principal, Allegra Bushman, schedules meet and greets with our parents twice a month, where parents can voice their concerns and address any questions they may have. In addition, we held an informational meeting for parents regarding open enrollment, denial, and acceptance. She gave parents the opportunity to view and tour our campus, which parents greatly appreciated to do so. In conclusion, I would like to share with you our excitement to be holding our annual field day and promotion ceremony for our 8th grade students. Parents are supporting the promotion and field day through donations this year. We are grateful and appreciative for all our parents and all the support they give us for both our students and our school. Thank you for all this opportunity to address the Board of Education and the audience. If I may, I will say that in Spanish for our parents.
Please, thank you.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mireya de la Cruz. Trabajo como coordinadora familiar en la secundaria Comstock. Estoy aquí en representación de nuestros padres de familia. Me gustaría hablar acerca de algunas maravillosas oportunidades que tenemos para nuestros alumnos. Tenemos varios programas de tutoría, incluyendo tutoría general disponible para todos los alumnos y en toda materia. Gracias a una beca, tenemos un programa de tutoría multilingüe para nuestros aprendices de inglés que se enfoca en mejorar sus habilidades de adquisición de inglés para un crecimiento educacional positivo y más por un medio del programa de educación migrante. Todos estos llevándose a cabo martes y jueves por la tarde. También tenemos una sesión de tutoría de matemáticas dentro del horario escolar, durante el almuerzo, para que los alumnos puedan terminar sus trabajos faltantes y reciban el apoyo que necesiten. Llevamos a cabo reuniones del Comité Asesor de Padres para nuestras familias de alumnos aprendices de inglés, donde los padres tienen acceso a la información con respecto al planeamiento e implementación del currículo académico, programas de educación general, resultados de evaluaciones de conocimiento y las evaluaciones estatales. Nuestra directora, Allegra Bushman, agenda reuniones con los padres de familia 2 veces al mes, donde los padres pueden hablar acerca de sus preocupaciones, dudas o preguntas. A su vez, tuvimos una reunión informativa con los padres acerca de la aceptación y negación de las aplicaciones para inscripción abierta, y se les dio la oportunidad de visitar el plantel. Los padres agradecieron dicha oportunidad. Para terminar, quisiera compartir con ustedes nuestra emoción acerca del Día de Campo anual y la ceremonia de promoción que tendrán lugar para nuestros alumnos de 8º grado. Los padres de familia nos han estado apoyando con donaciones este año. Estamos muy agradecidos por todo lo que los padres hacen para apoyar tanto a nuestros alumnos como a nuestro plantel. Muchas gracias a todos por la oportunidad de dirigirme a la mesa directiva y la audiencia. Buenas noches.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Next, we have Santa Rosa Middle School. I have Maria Martinez, the ELAC rep, and William Lyon, PFSO rep.
My name is Maria Martinez. Thank you for having me today. I'm the Family Engagement Facilitator at Santa Rosa Middle School. This year, a large number of Hispanic parents have gotten more involved in school thanks to the ELAC committee. We meet every month to discuss the most important things that are taking place in the school. We talk about attendance, communicating with teachers, school policies, and how to prepare students for college, among other things. When parents are well informed, they get more involved in school activities because they feel a sense of belonging. They also like the idea of having someone who speaks Spanish, their native language. This is great because the more involved the parents are, the better their children do in school. One of the parents that was gonna come today to talk about ELAC, she was unable to come because his son is missing. Her name is Naxeli Zuniga. And other parents that were gonna come too, they're close to her, and they do, they gather and they pray every evening. But we want to let her know that we keep her in our, and her family in our hearts and in our prayers. Thank you.
Good evening, President Medina, Superintendent Trinnell, and members of the board and the community. I am Will Lyon. I am the president of Santa Rosa Middle School's Parent, Faculty, Student Organization. And I'm here to report that Santa Rosa Middle School is an excellent place to be 12 or 13 or 14 years old. It is happy. It is healthy. It's a safe middle school. And I am grateful, really grateful that my child and the other 450 students are Cougars. I want to give a shout out to Stacy Keegan, our venerable treasurer. She does all the hard work. And under her leadership, we've been able to hold 5 Dine and Donate fundraisers. We've been able to sponsor 2 staff appreciation lunches to celebrate our really outstanding staff. The rest of our work has been to support the existing programs and events. Our venerable leadership teachers, Ms. Dunbar and Ms. Woodbury, and their students are always the highlight of our PFSO meetings. Principal O'Connor is having another excellent year, and we're grateful for her support. And here's a list of some wonderful things happening there. They do a turkey trot. That's a mile run for Thanksgiving with amazing prizes, including actual turkeys. They have safe routes to school, lunchtime activities, dances, rallies, Spirit Week, Spirit Month, leadership fundraisers. My favorite event was the Valentine's event, where students were encouraged to treat all humans with love and kindness. And we can save the kissy stuff for later. And somehow Principal O'Connor was able to turn that into a successful fundraiser to support the programs on staff. Santa Rosa Middle School has a very strong staff that goes way above and beyond for students, including stepping up to sub on their prep so admins can do administrative work and leading these super fun clubs: lunch, social, garden, crochet, video games, yoga, mini wargaming, pride, chess, Rubik's Cube, anime, reading, book, bike, karaoke, yearbook. They make an actual yearbook. Homework, drama and theater, and entomology, which is the study of insects. Don't you want to be in a few of these clubs? Santa Rosa Middle School isn't perfect, but it is improving. We're having some of the same problems that other schools are having. We need more adult supervision and timely consequences for unsafe and disrespectful behaviors. Our struggling students need more support to prepare them for high school, where the stakes and graduation requirements are much higher. All of these are better than they were a year ago, and I'm grateful for that. It was hard to be a seventh or eighth grader before the fires, before COVID, before A through G all the way. Nobody, when playing the "what age would you like to go back to" game, says they would like to go back to middle school. But if you had to, if that did happen, you would be lucky to be 12 or 13 or 14 years old again at Santa Rosa Middle School. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Lyon. We are now going to move on to the reports section of our agenda. We just want to take a minute real quick before we start. If anybody that came to support the people that received awards, if you got to go or whatever, now's the time. That way we don't make too much noise during the meeting. So we'll take 1 minute. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started again. So going on to reports, we will start with item D1, California School Employee Association, Santa Rosa Chapter 75, President Mary Lehman.
President Medina, there is no CSEA report tonight.
Thank you. We'll move on to D2, Santa Rosa Teachers Association, President Catherine Howe. Floor is yours.
Here it goes. Good evening, President Medina, Superintendent Trinell, members of the board, members of the community. My name is Catherine Howell. I am the SRTA president. I represent about 900 teachers in the city of Santa Rosa. I'm going to start tonight by saying congratulations to all of our people that were recognized this evening. It's always nice to hear the great things our classified members are doing, our teachers are doing, and absolutely to hear about our students. In the absence of a CSEA report, I think I need to point out the irony, perhaps, of the library tech from, it was not Comstock, it was, oh, Santa Rosa Middle, thank you. I think it was being applauded and lauded for her Chromebook controls. And I do want to point out that that is not actually in her job description. And in fact, when the library techs were asked if they could possibly upgrade their job descriptions to include that activity, this board said no. So good job for doing more than necessary and working outside of her job classification, but we shouldn't have to do more to be honored. So I'm going to move on and say thank you for the resolutions tonight. There's quite a few of them. The Asian American Pacific Islander resolution is great. The SRTA agenda analysis added some curriculum links for educators who are interested in not just passing a resolution, but actually teaching something to our students about it. It would be great if the board or perhaps educational services could provide links like that to our resolutions as well. Thank you for the resolution for our classified staff, classified school employee work week. We can't do our jobs without these people. We really, truly cannot. and every single educator in this district appreciates our classified staff every single day. The district office, at school sites, in the warehouse, and everywhere that we find them. We can't do this without them, and so thank you very much. Thank you to our guest teachers, another resolution you're passing tonight. And yeah, we can't do our jobs without them either, right? The relief that is within our hearts as teachers when we know there's somebody that we trust in our classrooms with our students when we can't be there is something that is, it can't be replaced. The absolute terror of not knowing who's going to be in your room when you're not there is something that teachers wrestle with every day, which is why teachers come to work sick and don't take the days that they are contractually allowed to take. And that leads us to the teacher appreciation resolution. I appreciate every single teacher in the district, and I know that we do. And I reached out to educators and I asked them, what does that mean to them? What do they see when they see teacher appreciation? And one of the members said something really eloquent. Let's see if I can find it here. He said it was like an iceberg, that the appreciation just touches on the top of the very peak of what people see that teachers do. And underneath is all of the huge lift of unappreciated things. And that Teacher Appreciation Week is like appreciating Michael Jordan for having nice shoes. I think it's a really good comparison because the things that teachers do are things that most people don't see. And the tireless hours that we work at home and on weekends are things that most teachers don't see. Or sorry, most people don't see from their teachers. I asked the question and I got a lot of answers. Mostly it was time. Teachers would love to be appreciated by having a little extra time. I know you can't create it, but time for paid time to work with our colleagues, to do report cards for our elementary teachers, to have conferences with our parents and their families, that kind of time, and also smaller classes that we can actually connect with every single kid. That would show appreciation for teachers. And also, if we could be recognized for our workload and our professionalism. Honor our knowledge, honor our expertise, trust us to make professional decisions in our classrooms, and know what is right for our students. That is how we would like appreciation to be shown to us. And that is something that we hope this board will embrace and follow through with. Thank you.
Thank you, President Howe. We'll now move on to item D3, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Medina, members of the board, those who are with us in person and online. Today marks day 151 for elementary schools and 150 for secondary schools. Only 29 more days of opportunity to positively support our students this school year. I know, 29. My heart is very full. Reflecting on the incredible journey of the past 4 years, I'm filled with immense gratitude for this remarkable community, a community where I have chosen to live and be a resident. Through some tremendously challenging times, I have worked hard to serve in a calm, even, open, and caring way, always leading with dignity and respect, even when this was not reciprocated. I want to express my gratitude to the Santa Rosa City Schools Board of Education for entrusting me with the role of superintendent. It has been an honor to serve alongside such a dedicated governance team, and I extend my deepest respect to each board member for their unwavering dedication to serving our community. Our district employees are among the best, and I could not be more thankful for all of them. They consistently go above and beyond to ensure that our students receive the care and support they deserve. I feel so fortunate to have a strong team who works day and night to meet the needs of students, staff, and families. Our parents are our strongest allies in supporting our youth. I very much appreciate all of the many opportunities that I have had over the years to engage with and get to know so many. I want to also acknowledge our community partners and community-based organizations who help to uplift and support our youth and families every day. They provide much needed support in addition to the services we provide, and their hard work and dedication is a prime example of what it means to take a village. Most importantly, I continue to be inspired by our students who deserve our best efforts in helping them to achieve their dreams. They certainly are our future, but we must continue to help them feel and be successful today. Our students are why we are here, and they deserve to have our full attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Chanel. We'll now move on to B4, Board President Report. That's me. I do want to follow up by just saying that I'm very sad to see you go, but I'm happy for you. I want to say thank you for being a part of this team. I think that we can all agree that you have done an immensely great job in a very difficult time. And I think all of us on the board know how passionate you are about our students, about our families, and that you've worked incredibly hard to build relationships, to bring people together, to help us navigate through these incredibly difficult times. And moving forward, it's going to be incredibly difficult to fill your shoes, if that's even possible. But I do want to say thank you for all you've done, and thank you for all you continue to do. And when you do go, which I hope feels like a long time from now, that you have success. With that said, I do want to move on to addressing some of the other issues, reporting on safety in the 3x3 committee with the city. There has been no meeting since the last one. I did have a conversation with the chief last week, just indicating that he indicated that the work continues to be done on putting together within the working group. But he did also add that the city will be looking at the funding of SROs, possibly at their May 7th meeting. He said that there's likely a slide on that topic that will be looked at. So the board should know about that as it relates to one of the items we voted on. One thing that one of the parents mentioned earlier, let's see, who was it? I think it was Maria Martinez from Santa Rosa. I think she's the rep. She talked about parents being involved in their schools and that leading to students being more successful. And earlier this week, I had an interaction. I was just sitting down in a lobby at one of our schools, and there was a young student. Her mom was there. The principal was there and gave the parent permission to go sit in her class with her. The student was very embarrassed. She didn't want to go. She wasn't listening to her parent, but her mom was there. Her mom was there. She was going to walk her to the class. And all I could think about was that even though this was a very uncomfortable situation for the student, that was a massive expression of love. That was that parent expressing love for her child by telling her in a way that the student didn't like, that she cares about her education, that she cares about her success. And I think any way that parents could be involved and engaged in the student's education, I think it's critically important for all our students. So I just wanted to share that story because, again, the amount of time and effort you spend on your children, it's critical to their success, whether it be engaging in a parent group or showing up to making sure that the student goes to class and behaves. So I did want to share that. And I just wanted to end by reciting in Lakesh. because I think that's important to how I'm feeling right now and how I feel my relationship with the community is and with everybody that I deal with. So en Lakesh, tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y me respeto. Yo, I love and respect myself. Thank you. Now I'll open it up to the board members. I've got Trustee De La Torre, followed by Trustee McNally.
Thank you, President Medina. I just want to thank our educational community that we have within Santa Rosa City Schools. Really want to honor and congratulate the Ring Valley Middle School and Marico High School music programs who have received accolades and awards for recent performances. Marico High School's music program put on a great fundraising event, and it was just so amazing to hear the talent that was in that room of those students and the teachers they work with to achieve their goals. So really appreciate that and thank those students and opportunities for hearing that great music. We'll have the opportunity to go see Marie Curie High School's choir program tomorrow evening. I'm really looking forward to that. Pioneer High School. I had a unique opportunity last week where my work afternoon opened up and I was near campus and I popped by to check in on Principal Correa, and she happened to be in the Performance Arts Center with the freshman counselor, Counselor Miller. And what they were doing is they were working with freshman students, a class at a time, asking them 6 questions and allowing the students to take ownership and accountability and imagine what they would want their educational experiences to be like. And I had an opportunity to speak with 2 freshman classes during that afternoon. And these students were engaged. These students were happy. These students were intuitive. They had great questions and great ideas on what they wanted from their high school experience, and just really want to applaud Pioneer for providing those opportunities to allow students to have a stake in building the environment that they'd like to see around them for enrichment and educational opportunities. I do want to acknowledge the very disheartening public acknowledgement of our superintendent, Anna Trunnell, leaving our district after this school year. I commend you. I applaud you. I appreciate you. I have been a parent in Santa Rosa with my wife since 2001, having kids in the public school system. And we've seen a lot of superintendents through this school district, through other school districts that we've parented through. And the largest compliment that I can think of that was shared with me by my wife is, Mrs. Trunnell, you care. And if you step into this role and step 1 is that you care, then the roads of opportunity ahead are boundless because you care enough to listen. You care enough to be a part of change. You care enough to be a true steward of those academic experiences. And yes, those shoes will be very hard to fill, but this board and this team is very dedicated to ensure proper due diligence is put into place, that we find the best leader possible to step into that role and continue the progress that we have within our district. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your energy. I look forward to your future successes, and I look forward to continuing the work that's much needed for all of us to do ahead.
Thank you. Trustee McNally?
Last week, I was able to visit a few of our sites. I was able to get out to Rincon Valley Middle, Herbert Slater, and Montgomery High School. And I really appreciated being able to talk to some of the staff, observe some classes, and I think what I liked most was just feeling the atmosphere and the culture out during the breaks and lunch. And I would love to see more of our sites. So I have taken the next 2 days off from my day job, tomorrow and Friday. I would like to spend those entire days out visiting our sites. We have a lot of sites. I'm not entirely sure where to start. So if, I guess I'm speaking to administrators, teachers, students, anyone, if there is a class, a club, anything that you want me to see, shoot me an email tonight. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, and I look forward to getting to know more of the community over the next couple days.
Trustee Flores and Trustee Manieri.
Thank you, President Medina. I had the honor actually of visiting Santa Rosa High School the other day for a community feedback on our LPAC. It's what we call the Superintendent's Advisory Network, also known as SAN. We use too many acronyms around here. So, and one of the things I took from it is that our community is looking for this. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to have this public forum here to say that, our community is asking for the following. And this is what the information from LPAC sort of community feedback tells us, that we need more parent support and communication. And I think this board has mentioned that a few times, and it sounds like our community is asking for that. Number 2 on the list came up personalized professional development, experimental learning, real world learning, community building activities. And one of the things that I took back from our meeting is that as a school board member, and I think I shared this with you already, President, Superintendent Trinell, is that I think it's important to also, track the efficacy of these programs that we're implementing. And that's something that I like to see more in the SIPSAs that we are going to get from the school sites. So just keep that in mind. And it's always a pleasure to see, how our community is involved. And I will say this, it's only like the first meeting in January was very well attended. This one had a few parents, and this is how our priorities are set in terms of funding expenditures. I know there was an individual there asking us as to, our priorities and why we were, laying off certain folks and not other folks. And this is how you get involved, right? This is how you let us, the district, know what the priorities are in terms of the LPAC sort of, the LCFF sort of spending, okay? And the LCAP. So I just wanted to reiterate that, and thank you for the opportunity. And it's not your last day, so I'm going to save, my remarks to, when that day comes. But just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Trustee Manieri.
Thank you. I just wanted to share a couple of exciting things that are coming up for Cesar Chavez Language Academy and LC Allen High School. First, tomorrow evening, CCLA is having their annual spring concert, which is always a huge blast if anyone's ever been to it before. There's just so much excitement and emotion that goes into their concert. So I highly encourage folks to attend if you're able to. And then on May 4th, CCLA is having their Fiesta de Amistad fundraiser. So they will be raising funds for all of their amazing programs. And we also encourage folks to support if you're able to. LC Allen High School on May 3rd is having their Concierto de Primavera, their spring concert. And this is a really unique, special concert because LC will also be raising funds for their new uniforms that their music department is in real need of. I'm not sure when they last bought uniforms, but when I graduated from LC in 2013, I know that the uniforms had been there at least another 10 years before me. So it's been a long time since LC Allen has had uniforms for their band. And they will be raising funds for these really needed uniforms on Friday, May 3rd. So we encourage folks to also attend their spring concert. And then lastly, just echoing Trustee Flores's remarks, Anna, not looking forward to your last day, but looking forward to celebrating you and just sharing all of your accolades then.
Trustee Latorre.
Just be remiss not to mention one more opportunity. Congratulations to Montgomery High School and bringing back their musical spectacular Cinderella under the direction of Chris Schlump, Dana Alexander, and Matt Perez. It's those type of stories that we love waking up and reading about and having those opportunities for our students and educators. So thank you, Montgomery High School.
Well, following up that, I guess I should say congratulations to the LC Allen High School badminton team. They won their first ever championship. And I remember when those band uniforms were brand new, a long time ago. But I did want to take a moment to publicly thank Supervisor Chris Corsi. His office reached out to see if they could help provide a grant to help pay for those uniforms. So thank you to his office for that. With that said, we'll move on to item D6, the safety report. Superintendent Trudeau.
There is no report this evening.
Is there a CSB report? See none. We will move on to public comments. So public comments is an opportunity for people to make comments on items that are not on the agenda. Folks will have 2 minutes to comment. I'm going to call 3 people at a time. When I call your name, please step up to one of the podiums up there. Please be respectful. And yeah, first 3 people are Chandri Bautista, Erandi Hernandez Aguilar, and Alejandra Mendoza Ayala. You will have 2 minutes.
Hola, my name is Chandri. I'm part of the Coalition for Safety and Belonging in Santa Rosa City Schools. I will be describing the intentions of the small disruption we had at the beginning of this meeting. When we wrote this scene, students and parents dove into their experiences of community policing. Collectively, they discussed the misinformation and current rhetoric utilized by the SRPD gang task force that consequently criminalizes Black and brown bodies, culture, and identity. In a discussion held by a concerned mother and former student, they discussed the critical needs to address the way in which a symbol of labor organizing and cultural pride has become weaponized against the BIPOC community, specifically the Chicana Latina community. In the scene, we see a teacher-student interaction in which the teacher upholds the school regulations on identifying gang-affiliated attire and behaviors that further embeds the policing culture within students' place of learning. The teacher in the scene, although hostile, is not the perpetrator of violence. Instead, they become a tool utilized by the policing and schooling structure that consequently criminalizes BIPOC student youth and reinforces the school-to-prison pipeline. We keep being told that the SRO program will most likely not be implemented until next year, but this scene depicts the current environment of hostility and policing of Black and brown youth in the city of Santa Rosa. It is important to note that throughout these actions, students have consulted research, education policy, state legislation, and community knowledge to build community consciousness on the consequences of militarizing schools. Let's not forget that Santa Rosa City School District is the largest district north of San Francisco and south of Oregon. This might be an act today, but these scenes are derived of real experiences and could easily become a future scenario. If we don't hold the MOU committee accountable to draft a pilot program that recognizes the current politics of policing within the city of Santa Rosa and Sonoma County, we will continue to disproportionately harm BIPOC communities. We don't want to leave in handcuffs. We came here to learn.
Thank you. Next, I have Erandi Hernandez Aguilar, followed by Alejandra Mendoza Ayala, followed by Bree Perkins.
Hello, my name is Erandi. I'm part of Mecha, the SRJC, the Mayday Coalition, and the Coalition for Safety and Belonging, SOCO. For starters, I'd like to say that as a college student, I experience more freedom and the privilege to speak out on this issue because I'm not actively in these high school classrooms or under these administrations. We've received reports of students being targeted or reprimanded for speaking out against having SROs on campus or not speaking in support of bringing them back. I'm here today as part of the Coalition for Safety and Belonging because I feel that there's underrepresentation of folks that would be directly affected by implementations of SROs. One of my main concerns about having SROs on campus is the language barriers and the safety concerns on-campus police will bring to our immigrant students and families. As someone who comes from an immigrant family myself, I know how difficult it is for my parents, my abuelitos and my tias to navigate their daily lives due to the language barriers. I'm wary of local law enforcement like the sheriff and SRPD because of how immigrants and undocumented community members are treated by law enforcement. How am I, my cousin or other students who are immigrants or come from immigrant families supposed to feel safe knowing that there is someone on school campus who has the power to start a permanent criminal record for a young person? I would not feel comfortable attending school events with my family knowing that I would be putting them at risk. As a coalition, representing Santa Rosa's working people and people of color, we urge you to keep Santa Rosa schools police-free. Safety for some is not safety for all. Listen to the voices of Black, Indigenous, students of color, LGBTQIA students, students with disabilities, and immigrant families as you consider this MOU. We chat Wiñapiqua. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Alejandra Mendoza Ayala, followed by Bree Perkins, followed by Adina Flores.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Mendoza. I'm here representing Mecha de RUP and here representing my little brother that goes to Comstock Middle School that has disabilities. I want to start off saying that my school is 90% plus Hispanic. I have talked about this in the student perspective meeting and panel at Los 100. We expected results and for adults to hear us. Unfortunately, this has not been the case. Many people and adults and authority figures always say that they want youth to speak out about these issues, but when we finally speak out, no one wants to listen to us. I am most concerned for my little brother, who unfortunately is not as verbal. So I feel like if there were to be an issue with a police officer on campus, he would not be able to talk and defend himself if he cannot verbally say what's happening or just in general be there for himself. That's all.
Thank you. Next, we have Bree Perkins, followed by Adina Flores, followed by Kelsey Vettel.
Hello, Santa Rosa School Board. My name is Bree. I'm reading a letter on behalf of one of your students in your district who wanted to remain anonymous. They say, "Good evening. I'm an immigrant student of the Santa Rosa City School District. Recently, there was a discussion between me and another student because he was calling my sister names. The discussion got to a point of escalation after I confronted him about it. He got mad and he started to make the situation worse, threw a punch, and from there, we were about to fight. Thankfully, a campus supervisor intervened. Unfortunately, when the other student threw a punch, our campus supervisor took the hit. We were both sent to the office. I got taken in by an administrator to talk about the situation, and he saw that I did nothing wrong. I was wrong in confronting the other student, and I take responsibility for it. I got suspended for 1 day and attended restorative. On my re-entry meeting, I was told that this was reported to the cops, and now I am concerned about this because as an immigrant student, this will affect my chances of getting papeles, documentation, as now I have this on legal record. I was also told that if the cops would have arrived, I would have been sent straight to juvenile hall. People think that cops will make everyone feel safe, but there are more kids who will fear them when the majority of the students in my school are Latino or Black. Knowing that my case was reported to the cops and now I have a record, having cops on campus will only cause me to always be on alert, feel uneasy, which will interfere with my education. Why is it all of a sudden that cops are being called when there are conflicts? Please reconsider this rule as it could affect more immigrant students like me and our paths to being documented. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Adina Flores, followed by Kelsey Vettel, followed by Attila Nagy.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. As the former executive assistant to this Board and Superintendent, I'd like to say that I'm sad to see Superintendent Trunell go. If anybody knew about equity and equality in this district, the only one sitting at the dais, acting as a trustee or staff member who truly understands what that means, a woman who has a Black husband and a mixed family, is Superintendent Trunell. I've seen her bashed in the Press Democrat comments. I've been continually defending her because she's at the mercy of this school board. I heard the most unheartfelt comments from her I've ever heard to bid her farewells to this district, and it's because I know she doesn't mean it. I don't know what pressure you all have been giving her, but come on, you paid these nonprofits to be here tonight. President Medina, your high school friends are snitching you out to me. How have you been traveling for 2 years straight, got a new wife, half your age, buying her Louis and whatnot, traveling nonstop? You don't have a job. You're under investigation with the Fair Political Practices Commission. You have been for a year and a half now. So the LC Allen High School Foundation, where's all that money going, Mr. Medina? Because we can't afford band uniforms, 30-year-old band uniforms, but you can travel the world? Where's that money going? Because I'm not the only one asking. You have the whole hood asking right now. So I'd really like to know. We have Raíces Collective here. It's funny that Dela Cruz isn't here because she shared a mortgage with Miss Isabel Lopez, the executive director, who is advocating against police on campus and was incarcerated for being drunk and hitting a parked police car. How do you even do that? How is a felon partnering with this school district? All you guys do is push these political narratives so you can financially benefit yourselves and indoctrinate children. So I hope that Superintendent Trunell can be given the opportunity to actually represent this community or another community that serves the best interests of families. Thank you and God bless you.
Next, we have Kelsey Vettel, followed by Attila Nagy, followed by Susan Lamont.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Vero, and I'm here in solidarity with the youth during their presentation and with the North Bay Organizing Project. First, I want to say at the last meeting during the board's discussion about National Sexual Awareness Month, Trustee De La Torre made comments about the dangers of false accusations and how they can be just as damaging as actual sexual assaults. Just as damaging. I found these comments offensive, inappropriate, and dangerous. Also mentioned in that discussion was the need for education. So in service of your education, allow me to say, when those in positions of power question survivors of sexual violence, perpetuate the myth that false accusations are common, and minimize the suffering of victims, you deter survivors from coming forward. You protect perpetrators, and you perpetuate rape culture. Your message, heard loud and clear by all the survivors in this room and all those who will tragically be next, is that you will approach their vulnerability and trauma with suspicion, and that you will not believe them. Today, April 24th, is known as Denim Day to bring awareness to this exact issue. We wear denim in solidarity with the 18-year-old woman whose rapist was released when the Italian Supreme Court overturned her conviction because the justices asserted her jeans were too tight to have been removed without her help. How many false accusations really happen? Knowing that only about 35% of sexual assaults are reported at all, according to the U.S. Bureau of Justice, the accepted estimate of false accusations among those is between 2% and 8%. The choice to report to police is agonizing. Personally, I've been called by friends twice asking for help as they navigated this process, what to do after they were raped. The first chose to report, and despite our efforts to protect her, it was a nightmare. We called a hotline. We requested an advocate, but none came. She was interrogated in her room alone, and I heard them say things like, "Why do you want to ruin this boy's life?" I drove her to the ER afterwards with a panic attack when she recanted to make the cops leave. A false
Thank you.
accusation.
Your time is up. Next, I have Attila Nagy, followed by Susan Lamont, followed by Inhui Leo.
Yes. Can you hear me okay? My name's Attila Nagy. I'm in Santa Rosa. And first and foremost, I want the board here to listen to the students and listen to the experience of the students, because that's why you're sitting there. And that's why the schools are to perform for the children, for the students, the youth, and not for, your job as a bureaucrat, basically, in the bureaucracy of the schools. What I'm asking is that you fund counseling, you fund prevention measures, mental health, restorative justice, rather than SROs, detention, and criminalizing students, which is a big problem, as you must know, and if you don't, you should.
Thank you. Next, I have Susan Lamont, followed by Inhui Leo, followed by Bailey Russell Willis.
I'm Susan Lamont. My children went through Slater and Montgomery. Last time I spoke to you on this issue, I gave you a long list of all the ways in which our culture is violent and asked you how we could expect children to be good when the model was violence all around them. So when I came today, I saw this sign about bullying. And that's the one I picked, because that's how much of this violence is perpetuated, is through bullying, This country on the world stage is the biggest bully in the world. That's the model we have right now. And from the top to the bottom, bullies advance. Bullies are selected to be president. Bullies rise in Congress. Bullies rise to be CEOs. At every level of our society, bullies rise. And the first bully that I really encountered in locally was Eric Gelhaus. I got involved when Andy Lopez was killed. And then I got the opportunity to listen to students, to Andy's friends and Andy's family, and hear the fear that they experienced around law enforcement in this city and in this county. And that is not what I want them to experience when they are at school. So there are other models, there are other ways to solve problems, and we have to eliminate the bullies from the top and model something completely different. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next, I have Inhui Leo, followed by Bailey Russell Willis, followed by Dallas Womack. Do we have Inhui Leo? No? No. Okay, we'll move on to Bailey Russell Willis, followed by Dallas Womack, followed by Jason Sweeney. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. My name is Bailey, and I stand here as a member of this community, and I just want to say I'm in solidarity with the NAACP, North Bay Organizing Project, Mecha Day, SRJC, and their call for police-free schools. The ACLU's 2021 report, quote, "No Police in Schools, Vision for Safe and Supportive Schools in California," states that destructive school policing patterns are far more likely to target Black and Indigenous students and students with disabilities. This annually contributes to tens of thousands of California students being criminalized, pushed out of schools, and shunted into the juvenile justice system. I would just like you all to sit with that for a moment and really think about what we think safety is. We need to keep our children safe and away from the school to prison pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Dallas Womack, followed by Jason Sweeney, followed by Aylin Wolfs.
Good evening. My name is Dallas Womack. I've lived in Sonoma County my whole life, and I've lived in Santa Rosa for at least the last 5 years. If I'm lucky, I plan to raise a family here, and if I'm even luckier, I hope to have them go through the Santa Rosa School District. I plan to raise a family where interactions are free from the threat of violence. We cannot be educating our students in an environment with the threat of violence presence there. To bring an SRO on campus teaches students that to control others, you need a big enough threat of violence that outweighs the violence that they bring. To bring an SRO onto school campuses is only responding to threats of violence with other threats of violence. What's bad for the hive is bad for the bee, Marcus Aurelius said, who was known as the last great emperor of Rome, and probably one of our only examples of Plato's philosopher king. To bring in an SRO on campus does not give safety to all, as some like to tout, and safety for some is not safety for all. Investing resources that could be invested in SROs in other programs that would deter violence at the root is the more appropriate way of handling these issues. You must weed out weeds from the root. You cannot handle them just by chopping off the top. More grow. When one of us is threatened, we are all threatened. The problem with having SROs on campus is that they do not end up actually contributing to the safety of all, but they do end up contributing threats to members of our community. To do better, we have to be investing our resources in ways that actually improve the lives of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Jason Sweeney, followed by Aylin Wolves, followed by Ursula Senges-Pols.
Power, power to the students. Invest the school, diverse the police, and endless war. Greetings, my name is Inhi Lee, and she, they, and I'm a grandma. I have a 6-year-old grandson. I am worried to death, police in school, that is, are we in some kind of third world country or what? Also, I'm from South Korea. How many of you know about the K-pop or BTS? Do you know why we have such beautiful music, creativity? Because we have no police in schools. What we have is no police and the locally grown organic hot food for school lunch. This is what we have in South Korea right now. And all this creativity, comes from no fear. Creativity cannot survive in fear. I don't want my grandson, Dory, just in fear, shivering in classrooms. Fear begets violence. And please invest the school, more teachers, counselors, therapists, arts, music, sports, and teach peace. Look at what's happening in this country. All we do is spending money on endless war. Where is creativity? Where is prosperity? Our kids deserve the best. Power to the students. Invest the school, diverse the police, and endless war. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have Jason Sweeney, followed by Aylin Wolves, followed by Ursula Senges-Pols.
Good evening. And I just want to start by saying thank you for your service. My name is Jason Sweeney. I live in Trustee Area 1. I'm here to voice my support for not bringing school resource officers back to school campuses. I'd like to see this community continue to align our priorities with what we know about pedagogy and how we create the best learning environment for all of our students and prioritize our spending on teachers, support staff, and programs. We need to focus on what our schools are, communities for learning, and treat them accordingly. Everyone coming into those communities each day deserves the opportunity, resources, and support to be their best selves, and everyone in that community matters. I used to coordinate a couple of education programs. They were extracurricular outdoor education programs that were focused on sustainable agriculture and environmental restoration. These programs were grant funded, so they were not well funded, and I ran these programs for over 8 years, and I developed a deep respect for the teachers that I worked with. And it's with those teachers and other partnerships in the community, we were able to create a really excellent learning environment. These were high school aged kids. We worked with the high schools, and we had a couple of sites that were the continuation campuses for that school. And I just had such a rewarding, it was one of the most rewarding things I did earlier in my career, is taking kids out, getting them on the land, and creating these environments and watching how it affected them over the course of a year. We are in a slow-moving crisis. The growing inequality we see nationally, it drives cynicism towards government and the so-called other. It creates very different realities for the daily functioning. It is ubiquitous like the air we breathe, and yet it is human-made and therefore malleable. I'd like to see us address this issue in a more humane way. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next, I have Aylin Wolves, followed by Ursula Senges-Pols, followed by SRCS.
Hi, my name's Alan Wolves. I also have an anonymous letter from a student. Good evening, board members. I'm a student of the Santa Rosa City Schools District. What our schools need to do in order to keep the school safe is to start funding more school activities. We work very hard throughout the day, and whenever we have our breaks, it would be great to have break activities open. For example, in my school, our basketball courts are always closed because students are not trusted, and that only makes students make wrong decisions during these times. Many of my classmates struggle with mental health. It should be a priority to help those students by having more access to mental health care during school hours and take a break throughout school under supervision. There are not many counselors on site to support students. Access to counselors can be difficult given so many students. That should change by adding more counselors. Thank you. And this student knows what's up. Our kids are smart. We need to listen to them. I'm a parent. I have 2 students in elementary school and kindergarten and 5th grade right now. They don't feel safe around police. Their friends don't feel safe around police. I know that some students do feel safe around police, but we shouldn't sacrifice the safety of BIPOC students in order to just make a small group of white students feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ursula Singers-Poles, followed by SRCS, followed by Ruby Nunn Curtis.
Good evening. Oh, thank you. I am here in solidarity with our students and the partnering organizations to support the message that the presence of police in schools has yet to keep all students safe, and so far has only endangered the physical and emotional well-being of our diverse student populations. Schools should be environments that promote resilience, and the evidence shows that this is impossible through punishment and fear. Please do not bring SROs back into our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have SRCS, followed by Ruby Nunn Curtis, followed by Diane Monroe.
Good evening. When we are thinking about who we are entrusting with the safety of our children in schools.
Really quickly, could you say your full name for the record, please?
Cece Safranco. When we're entrusting people with the safety of our children in schools, we are trusting their discernment. Do you trust the discernment of cops with your children? Do you trust cops to discern the difference between autistic stimming and the precursor to a violent outburst? Do you trust them to be knowledgeable about diversity and treat someone who's being perhaps loud and agitated with respect instead of becoming violent and potentially arresting them? Discernment in the 2018 to 2019 school year in Florida resulted in SROs arresting elementary-aged students 345 times. That is younger than the middle school students of the month that you saw today, younger than those 2 young girls arrested 345 times under SROs. I'd like to remind you that the police in this country are trained by the Israeli occupational forces who are currently slaughtering Palestinian children by the thousands. You're gonna trust your kids with those people? Santa Rosa needs to become more diverse. And the reason that it's not diverse is because of us. That's on us, that's our fault. We don't have enough diversity because we're making it that way. So one way that I urge you to make it better is to create a safer environment for BIPOC children and disabled kids in schools. Thank you.
Next, we have Ruby Nunn Curtis, followed by Diane Monroe, followed by Maria Posey.
Hello. Ruby Nunn Curtis. I live in Santa Rosa. I wasn't initially planning on speaking, but I wanted to reinforce what the students have stated. Law enforcement does not belong in schools. Their presence will address the exaggerated anxieties of a few parents and students at the cost of the safety of all other students. They have no ability to de-escalate situations. Their presence inherently escalates situations. They have no ability to address crises before they occur. They increase their occurrence. Instead of funding the police, fund schools so that they can address the actual needs of students. Because as the students demonstrated at the start, they neither want nor need police in their schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Diane Monroe, followed by Maria Posey, followed by Diana Kingsbury.
So, hello.
My name is Diane Monroe, and I live here in Santa Rosa. And I'm here to speak strongly against cops in schools. And I do this because I spent 26 years of my life working with youth, much of it within school environments. And I was working with youth who faced a wide variety of life challenges. And one thing I saw over and over again is that so often children facing things in their lives that really no child should face got misunderstood and misinterpreted as a bad child, a disobedient child, a disruptive child. And then the more that there was, I want to use the term, an authoritarian discipline rather than compassion and understanding, the more that child got funneled into the juvenile justice system and the school to prison pipeline. Now, my feeling is in the times I spent working with youth, I saw after-school programs defunded. I saw arts in schools defunded. I saw counselors defunded, and I saw more and more of city budgets going toward cops and actually military training and military equipment for cops. So we know we have a budget shortfall here in Santa Rosa. Let's spend our money on giving youth what they need: counselors, programs, understanding, compassion, not police, not the school to prison pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Maria Posey, followed by Diana Kingsbury, followed by Noah Levin.
I'd like to see a pilot program where there's a school where absolutely no police would be allowed on campus, no matter what the circumstances, and see how many of you are going to sign up and put your kids in that school. School shooting, no cops on campus. They might shoot wrong. All of you really want to just bash the police, but I bet you're the first ones to call 911 when there's a problem. And I can guarantee the school board does this because I've seen it happen. We used to show up with Mr. Shelby Pryor. I noticed you don't do that anymore because we don't scream like he does. I'm really curious, like all these people want to have more programs in the school. Are all of you aware of the program money, instead of it going to programs, or going to the nonprofits? The nonprofits that are lining the pockets of some of those board members up there that started it? You should look into the nonprofit that you're sitting for today. I actually had some respect for a moment until somebody said that they picked out their own sign and put it around their neck. So the nonprofit just has random signs, you just grab it. So that leads me to believe that you don't know exactly what you stand for if you can't make your own sign and have your own stance. I actually, if things continue the way they are, hey, I've met you before. You followed us one day at you were part of an Antifa group. I see you believe you work at McKinley. But yeah, you were one of the guys that follow us around and harass when we're at nonprofits. And I'm looking right at you, you're smiling, you know who you are. Just go ahead and keep up what you're doing, because I want to say there's at least 3 new parents today on numerous mom sites that are pulling their kids and asking more questions about homeschooling. I do make sure that when someone says to check into the independent study, to make sure that none of that funding will be going to your district, and to make sure that they're going to learn how to get into the nonprofit or get into the homeschooling so it's out of your districts completely. So keep up the bad work.
Thank you. Your time is up. Diana Kingsbury, followed by Noah Lewin, followed by Deanna Olivares.
Good evening. I'm Diana Kingsbury from the North Bay Organizing Project, and I'm here in solidarity with the youth leading us toward a sensible solution for school safety and belonging for all students. I urge you to listen to these students and their parents as well. Listen to the student who spoke about their little brother, and know that their stories are borne out in the evidence. Recent peer-reviewed research shows cops in schools do not make people safer. Cops in schools make people of color, disabled people, and LGBTQ+ people less safe. To prevent violence, we need to invest in opportunities for our students, focus on education, including ethnic studies and cultural humility. We need to get to the root of harms. We need to address the basic needs that are not being met. We need to fight poverty, create good union jobs, good after-school programs, well-funded schools. We need strong mental health programs, and we need restorative justice. Thank you.
Next, I have Noah Lewin, followed by Deanna Olivares, followed by Jimmy Wu.
Good evening. My name is Noah Lewin, and I'm an extensive support needs or ESN special education teacher at Montgomery High School. I'm sure the board is aware that our program, along with some other special education programs, will be taking back more students from the SCO program and various non-public schools who were in such schools because public special education programs were not able to meet their emotional and behavioral needs, many of whom likely have histories of trauma. If we do not sufficiently prepare for supporting these students' needs, their experience in schools will be disastrous. Our ESN staff currently receive PROACT training once every 2 years, which includes learning about de-escalation strategies and restraint as a last resort. This is not enough. Staff need paid trauma-informed training several times a year that teaches how trauma impacts development and behavior, as well as de-escalation strategies. Students have been seriously injured or even died from inadequately trained staff reacting to their behavior in ways that make the situation worse. This includes making split-second decisions to restrain an escalated student in a way that restricts their breathing or breaks their bones. California Department of Education data from the 22-23 school year showed that although students with disabilities make up 14% of the state school population, they account for 95.5% of students who are physically restrained. A 2019 article from the Sacramento Bee found that Black students are more likely than students of other racial backgrounds to be restrained in a way that restricts their breathing. Steps need to be taken to ensure that there are enough staff in each classroom and to prevent staff turnover, such as paying our paraprofessionals adequately. Preventing staff burnout and having consistent and regular staff available to build relationships with students is a key part of helping students stay regulated. Please take my suggestions into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Deanna Olivares, followed by Jimmy Wu.
Hello, Superintendent and Board. The council chambers is very full today, and the last few meetings, there's been a lot of anti-police rhetoric. There hasn't been too many parents showing up actually voicing their support for SROs solely, and that's because most parents like myself, we also want comprehensive mental health counselors in the schools. We want restorative justice. We want a lot more than just police on campus. And I find it interesting that all the people that are speaking anti-police rhetoric tonight also, they don't worry that our superintendent just resigned. They don't worry that we're in a deficit. They don't worry our kids can't read and write. They don't worry if our kids are getting healthy food. They're not speaking about our teachers being underpaid or our facilities collapsing. They're speaking about one thing, and that's because it's solely aligned with their nonprofit and solely aligned with a few major donors and some grant money that they get. I would also like to say that schools and administrators, they have to call the police when certain things happen. It's not just the school board's discretion, it's in legislation, it's the California Constitution, it's the California Ed Code. Also, I would like to know next time you all show up and speak, just curious what voting district you live in. If you do reside in Sonoma County, what trustee area? Are you a voter? Because I would like to know that. And I would like to know if you have kids that attend Santa Rosa City Schools, because you continuously show up and make it seem like so many people at our schools don't want police, but most of you don't live in the district or don't even have kids in our schools. So I would like to, if everybody could say what district they live in, that would be nice as well. Thank you.
Next, I have Jimmy Wu, followed by Jason Farnham.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jimmy Wu, and as a family doctor in this community for the past 15 years, and more importantly, as a father of 2 young children of color in the Santa Rosa City Schools, I come to this meeting in solidarity with our students and express my opposition to having school resource officers in our schools. I work for Santa Rosa Community Health, which cares for many families in the SRCS district. We are in the midst of a mental health crisis with fewer resources than we have had in years. Our patients are community members that have experienced the most health disparities related to poverty, trauma, racial discrimination, and food, housing, financial insecurity, but with the fewest resources and supports. This impacts everyone in the family, and especially our youth. There is a lack of mental health resources that exist for the families for which I care. Over the last year, we have actually lost multiple mental health specialists, including all child psychology specialists. Our families are struggling, and our medical systems are not able to provide the sufficient supportive mental health resources, including a lack of bilingual and bicultural therapists. Our schools are key access points providing this counseling, social support, and restorative justice resources. This is where we need to invest our financial resources, not in more police officers that have not actually been shown to enhance student safety, as has been cited by several other speakers. As a parent, I too am concerned about the safety of all children in our schools. A lot of us have been conditioned to associate police officers with a sense of safety and protection. However, it is clearly evident that this is not true for everyone. There is substantial evidence that having SROs on school campuses decreases both psychological and physical safety for students of color. I have heard powerful comments from students and community members alike, both tonight and previous, discussing a direct connection between SROs and the school-to-prison pipeline. I am deeply concerned at the thought that safety in schools will be fixed by having SROs as the answer. We desperately need resources to be funneled into mental and social support for students. We need to listen to students and families that are most impacted by inequities and disparities of health, education, and justice.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next, I have Jason Farnham.
Opponents of SROs like to hide behind the data. They like to use fancy phrases. They like to use fancy phrases like school to prison pipeline. Well, let's talk about the data. The truth is there is no data that represents this particular situation in Santa Rosa because what we are proposing is a new SRO program with modifications. It hasn't been done before. There is no data for that. So the data that exists is simply obsolete. Actually, we have real life data. Officer Luigi, he was at Monty from March through the end of school. We can look at this like a trial period. How did it go while he was there? According to more than one poll, a majority, no, scratch that. An overwhelming majority of students want Officer Luigi back. Black, white, Latino, Asian. Now, why in the world would that be? Because the man built relationships with them. You know, he even told us once, some of the kids would talk to him about things they wouldn't even tell their own parents. And let's talk about the school to prison pipeline. You know how many arrests he made during his tenure when he was there? 1. And you know why that arrest was? It was because the number isn't 0, it's because of the 2 kids involved in the incident. The family of the one kid pressed charges against the other kid. So he had to make that arrest. Do you think if him being there was a bad experience for the students, almost all of them would still want him back? You can't ignore these facts. Where is the data that shows that? Because that data speaks louder than any bar graph or pie chart that you can project on a screen. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all the public comments that we have. We will now be moving on to our F items. But first, we'll take a 3-minute break. Is that okay?
It's 4 total. Yeah, 4 total. What's that? What do you need to know? Okay, you're here. So, I introduced you, and then I just, let's shut these off.
All right, let's get back to the meeting. So we'll move on to item F1. Resolution for May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Thank you, President Medina, Superintendent Trinnell, members of the board, student, staff, community of Santa Rosa City Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to present consideration of the resolution for Asian American Pacific Islander Month. In Ed Services, we continue to seek out ways to demonstrate how we seamlessly and consistently integrate the essence of these resolutions into the daily learning experience of our students. So you'll see us continue to try to create different formats for this to make it meaningful and show that enduring and meaningful implementation and integration into the lives of our students. Tonight, I'm very pleased to have 3 individuals with me to actually co-present. I have Stephanie Hsu from Montgomery High School, Samantha Kim, Steel Lane Elementary School, Grace Chung Schuman, a North Bay representative from the Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them so they can make a few words.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to both present this resolution and then also share a little bit about my perspective as a teacher and how we can amplify our AAPI student voices. The part of the resolution I just wanted to read aloud and also for everyone to hear is to highlight the many people listed here and also the many that are not included in this resolution. So AAPI activists persevered throughout the historically challenging times, including Lee Yick, who won a Supreme Court case that ensured that all people, citizens and non-citizens, had equal protection under the law in 1898. Mabel Ping-Hua Lee, who campaigned for women's suffrage in 1912. Larry It Leong and Philip Vera Cruz, who led the lengthy Filipino labor movement. Fred Korematsu, who refused to comply with Executive Order 9066 during World War II. Kiyoshi Kuromiya, lifelong activist who was born in the Heart Mountain, Wyoming internment camp in 1943. And civil rights figures Yori Kochiyama and Grace Lee Boggs. Instrumental AAPI architects, authors, tech founders, politicians, athletes, and scientists, as well as today's frontline essential workers. And the historic milestone of the inauguration of the first United States South Asian African American woman, Vice President Kamala Harris. To share with you all my perspective at the elementary school level, I know that myself and several other teachers have been involved with ethnic studies with the Acosta Educational Partnership, something I would like to encourage you to pursue and encourage all teachers, TK through 12, to actively participate in. My project this year is my final year with ethnic studies. I'm very saddened it was my last year, was to take a unit of my curriculum and transform it to bring light to the counter narrative or the stories we don't get to hear. I was very excited because the second I saw my Gold Rush unit, I already knew exactly what I wanted to change. So I feel proud to say that for my class of 4th graders, their Gold Rush unit included the voice of the very large population of Chinese people that endured the many horrible conditions, both on the journey there and also when they arrived in the state of California. Like I said, I think that Santa Rosa City Schools should continue to make ethnic studies a priority for all grade levels. And then something I included in here, Black American author James Baldwin has stated, children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. If we as the teachers and adults of our school and Santa Rosa community do not continuously and vigilantly defend our students of color or allow for grace that comes with teaching students that don't grow up in homes that look like ours, then we are not doing our job. I understand that in the world of education, our jobs have an increasing load of demands. However, humanity and anti-racism are not add-ons. They are the bare minimum. I wanted to share some resources that I know I have used. There is the Asian American Education Project, asianamericanedu.org. They offer free lesson plans that are being posted monthly for teachers to use all over the country that help amplify AAPI student voice in our schools. I said to my staff today, because I just had the opportunity to go to the California Asian and Pacifica Leaders in Education Conference this past weekend. We need to continue to do this work. No one expects you to remember all the things you learned in school about history, but if you are not continuously re-educating yourself and fighting for our students of color, then I think you need to realign your priorities. Right. Hello, my name is Stephanie Hsu, and thank you for adopting this resolution that we have for our AAPI community. As stated in the resolution, it's the Asian and Pacific Islanders are one of the fastest growing racial and ethnic minority groups in the US, with California being home to the largest Asian American population and second largest Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander population. So the fact that we have 32 Asian ethnic groups and 77 Asian languages in California shows how big of an impact that we have in our schools. As far as from my perspective as a secondary teacher who teaches the arts, one of the things that I've done to kind of promote more inclusivity in regards to our Asian American and Pacific Islander culture groups is to incorporate different aspects of cultural understanding and projects that align with our history, social status. We look at the period eye, which is the cultural conditions under which art was created, viewed, and understood in that time period specific. So kind of putting yourself in their shoes as artwork is being created. So we really do a deep dive into trying to really understand AAPI culture and perspectives from that standpoint. I also try to implore into the cultural symbology versus religion versus superstitions, because that goes along with a lot of our culture, and the philosophy that is universally understood and how they translate into our art pieces. How they're both intrinsically connected and separate at the same time, which is kind of funny. We also, at Montgomery, we actually just finished over the spring break a trip to Japan to better have students have a better understanding, both just not only traveling internationally, but experience a different culture and their different cultural perspectives, norms, etc. And it was really well received, and they were very, very respectful, very happy to be a part of that journey as they're kind of navigating that kind of difficulty with even with just another language in another country, and kind of understanding the different social aspects to remain their decorum in another country. So, and lastly, just inviting the AAPI community members or groups to speak or perform. For example, during our diversity week, we invited a Vietnamese dragon dance troupe at Montgomery High School. So they did a lion dance at our rally. And so we're really just trying to push for more inclusivity, exposure, and cultural experiences at my site. So
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Grace Chung Shulman. I am the Vice President of AAPI Coalition of North Bay, a very young nonprofit that aims to rally together the AAPI community in the area. I'm honored to be here today because I have been invited by these Santa Rosa City Schools to be on the City Schools Ethnic Studies Advisory Committee. And I have been a high school teacher many, many years ago, and I have lost touch with knowing what it is like to be in a school with the teacher, and of course, the California educational process is different, very different from when I was teaching. By being on the committee, however, I have been able to meet with teachers who are on the front line of day-to-day educating the next generation. As a person of color and Asian, I applaud this Santa Rosa City Schools' focus on offering ethnic studies curriculum in its schools, and for the meticulous planning and organizing for the committee's work. I am proud to be in partnership as a community member with the educators, because only when that happens, your curriculum comes alive, because it is not just things in the books. In my community outreach and networking in the last 2 years since I co-founded the AAPI Coalition, one frequent comment that when I meet with people in my community and they say to me, they said, we're very energized because they feel seen, they feel heard. The AAPI community is small, 5.4% of the population of Sonoma County. And at the same time, we are very diverse with different languages, cultures, customs, history, and diversity in socioeconomic status with the resulting challenges and trauma. And also, we are very scattered geographically, isolated, and don't know each other, unseen, unheard. But from such diversity, we share the same values that we place on the love of family and community. As a result, I can tell you, the AAPI community is resilient and strong. The children in schools today most likely also bear the scars of generational trauma, unseen and unheard. But when they feel they are seen, when they are able to share their culture and their stories, particularly with their friends in the schools, in the community, they will grow up to be strong as well. Just one last little bit of interesting thing I want to tell you. A friend of mine who works for a local architecture firm, and she wrote me recently. She wrote, Grace, our Jedi team wants to ask for your advice on how to celebrate AAPI month. And I thought to myself, what is Jedi team? She continued, it is justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. So all my Jedi friends, may the force be with you.
I want to thank Stephanie Hsu from Montgomery High School, Samantha Kim from Steel Lane Elementary, and Grace Chung Schumann from the Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition for giving an example about how educational services in Santa Rosa City Schools is trying to move beyond links to something that's more deeper, comprehensive, and enduring in terms of how we celebrate diversity of our community. Tonight's requested action is that the board consider approval of resolution 2023-24-60 for May as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Thank you. Thank you for that awesome presentation. First, I'll open it up to the board for questions. Anybody? Comments? No? I do have a couple questions. Just in terms of the ethnic studies component, do we have any data as to how much of the AAPI curriculum has been ingrained within our various levels of education? Do we track that?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can get that for you.
But it's something that's being done, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. The only other part, I'm glad to see some of the links in here about resources, but I am curious as to, in terms of implementation, is there some sort of plan for communication to staff that will share resources about different curriculums or different things or activities that can be done to celebrate AAPI month?
You're saying, is there a plan to, I'm sorry?
Yeah, after we pass this resolution in terms of implementation, how do we plan to encourage or share information with our teachers and staff so that they could, aside from being aware if they're not part of this meeting?
Yeah, so this wouldn't be anything that we're starting today or even yesterday, sorry. This would be, as you can see, something that has been done. So we would continue to encourage what has been done to continue happening, and then you would see it also highlighted as part of this month. So yes.
There will be communication.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, board? No? Not, is there there's no public comment, right?
No public comment cards.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the resolution 2023-24-60 for May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And might I say what a pleasure it is to find a way to provide a resolution to honor this very proud and resilient community.
Second.
Moved by trustee La Torre, seconded by trustee Manieri. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go to the vote.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you again for the presentation. Let's celebrate in May. Okay, now we'll be moving on to what's posted on the agenda as item F6. And I'm going to be opening up the public hearing to establish or increase the Santa Rosa City Schools developer fee rates. And do we have any comments on this?
I do not have any blue cards.
Okay, seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. So we'll now move on to the action item, approval of resolution number 2023/24-35 for the elementary district and number 2023/24-36 for the high school district to establish or increase the Santa Rosa City Schools developer fee rates.
Thank you, President Medina, Superintendent Trinnell, members of the board, and our Santa Rosa City Schools community in person and online. Just wanted to provide a little bit of background regarding developer fees, how they're used, and the reason for the fees. As construction happens, there's an impact on schools and the need for classrooms. And whether that's building new classrooms or rehabilitating classrooms, upgrading them to be what students need now versus what they needed, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. An example would be our transitional kindergarten expansion required by the state is going to cost approximately $22.5 million, which is a large percentage of the bond funds that we have, and we really need to maximize every dollar that we can to help offset that. And one of the ways is by collecting developer fees based on new construction or additions to existing housing. Excuse me. So we did contract with Jack Schrader and Associates to make sure that we are charging the appropriate fees, that we have the recommendation, the justification, that's why it's called a justification study, to look at what the conditions are in our local community and how housing starts and increases, and also commercial property, how any of those new or expanded construction impact or are projected to impact our facilities in the future. By collecting the full amount of developer fees, it does help us to be eligible that should we need financial hardship funding for facilities, we then are eligible under the state grant program. If we do not collect the full amount as allowed, we are ineligible. And that is the difference between a 60% reimbursement on a modernization to a 100% potential reimbursement on a modernization should we end up in that position. You'll see there's a lot of information attached to the board agenda, but I think that is one of the biggest things, is that it's actually something that would be taking away from students if we don't increase the fees, and it provides additional opportunities for students as far as the quality of the environment that we are able to offer them should you choose to increase the fees as allowed by law. One other key note is that if we do not establish to collect the full amount as allowed, and one of our elementary districts does opt to do that, which most districts are in the same process right now. If we chose not to increase the amount on the high school side and the elementary district, one of our feeders, did increase, they would actually still collect that full amount, but it would go to them rather than any of that additional amount collected going to the high school district. So just some key points to be aware of, that it's not necessarily something that would have an impact if they were to be waived or reduced by us. Another district could have the opportunity to collect that in lieu of our students benefiting.
Are there any questions, board? Trustee Manietti?
Thank you for that information. What is the urgency around making this decision? Are we on some sort of timeline?
Well, the issue is that we are unable to collect the increased fee amount until 60 days after a resolution is passed. So every time that we delay, it does delay the time that we can collect on those. And so any projects that say contractors are getting ready to, or developers are getting ready to put in for approval, now we would not be able to collect the increased fees on it this time. So we are essentially losing out on those dollars for our students the longer that we delay any action.
Can you talk about that just a little bit more? So when does the collection of fees actually happen?
So it happens when they submit an application to have a permit to do the increase, so to actually build. So if they are preparing to, say somebody was going to add on to their home 1,000 square feet, they would pay the developer fees not on the entire square footage of the home, but on the addition. So on that extra space, and it would be at the time that they're getting ready to proceed with that.
And are we currently collecting on the rate that was voted on in 2017? So we are collecting, we're just not collecting the rate that is being proposed at the moment.
Correct. And other school districts who have already passed their resolutions would be collecting the full amount. And so if they are in our high school district, if they passed the resolution more than 60 days ago, they are receiving the extra funding and we are not.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know if we have any other entities who are not collecting the fees? Any other school districts?
I am not aware of any who have elected not to collect the fees.
Thank you.
Could you quickly, well, I don't know about quickly, do you know where the MOU lies that talks about the 70-30 split between elementary districts and the high school district?
That's actually within law. So it's not actually an MOU, that's actually codified.
Okay. And right now, we're collecting the 479 and 78?
Yes, the split on that.
Okay, so the
Is that correct?
difference,
I'm going to defer to Joel for that on this one because that actually does vary based on site. He's a little more, I'm sorry, not on site, on district, and he's a little more versed in our local.
So I'd like to have the numbers in front of me to confirm that. The exact dollar amount.
I think that's what's listed in the study.
Yeah,
The in 2022, the state did 479. Well, the 479 is elementary and 78 cents is the high school.
what we're currently collecting, correct?
Correct. So the difference in terms of what we're considering to increase now would be 38 cents more at the elementary level and 6 cents more at the high school level. So if we delayed, that's the difference that we're delaying and waiting. I guess my question is, the superintendent of the county superintendent is going to have some sort of hearing about this or conference or something. That's what was shared. Do you know about that? Do you know what's being shared there?
No, they do not. And we don't know the contents of that either. All we've been informed is that there is some work being done between the county and a particular agency to create some educational information.
Now, there is a push, to not pass this. Could you talk a little bit about that? And also, our fiduciary duty in terms of what we need to do in terms of as a school board? Thank you. But I just want to make sure that we talk about the emails that we've been receiving about the no vote as well.
Yes, thank you. So there is a request. We've received some comments related to public asking that we reduce or waive fees specifically for affordable housing units, so deed-restricted properties. The issue, should we do that, which is covered here in the board cover, is that we actually become ineligible for that financial hardship funding that I just spoke about. So that would be, we cannot even apply for it. And that could be millions of dollars of difference. So it's not even as much about, well, yes, the increased fees are important to us. We have a potential to shortchange our students millions of dollars of funds in improvements, or also to ask our local constituents to have to come up with more as a whole spread across rather than actually new development coming in. And the reason that the impact fees, the developer fees are there is because when the studies are done, especially when we are looking at high density housing, you will have a larger impact to the schools that are immediately surrounding that higher impact, the local school in that area, because the number of students who will be, attending those schools that's the reason that you need to expand those classrooms or provide upgraded equipment, including furnishings and things of that nature.
Go ahead, Trustee Minetti.
On those hardship funds, have we collected those before?
We have not collected financial hardship before. One instance where we could end up in a situation for financial hardship would be, for example, when there was a recession and property values dropped. Agencies who could have issued bonds, so even if you had voter-approved bonds, but you're past your capacity because your property values have dropped, you then don't have those bond funds available to you. And that's a situation that could create the opportunity to receive financial hardship funding from the state if you have urgent needs.
And this is in the situation that we're not collecting at all, correct? But
Or if we're waiving, if we are not collecting the full amount that our justification study has indicated, if we don't collect the full amount in there, then we cannot apply for hardship funding.
And historically, we haven't ever collected those funds.
I have to say, I don't know if we have historically. I know that it hasn't happened in the recent past.
Okay.
But I do know of districts in California who have had that happen within the last 3 years.
And have we done any kind of comparative analysis to the housing crisis that is very real in our community? I mean, part of the push, as Trustee Flores mentioned, against impact fees is that we're in a housing crisis, and impact fees, increased impact fees could definitely slow down the progression of development and further intensify the housing crisis. And that for us, for the school district, means declining enrollment, which we're already experiencing because of the housing crisis and other things. So have we done any kind of comparative analysis to understand what the impact of declining enrollment, if we exacerbate our housing crisis through these impact funds, is compared to what the revenue potential is?
No, we have not. I do know that there are a number of projects on the docket that, obviously would, they're already in line. I don't have that information. We could conduct an analysis. I don't, without knowing the projections, it will be our best guesstimate, but we can certainly work on that.
If we postpone, how long would that take?
I do not know. We'd have to reach out to consultants to ask for that, and there would, of course, be a cost involved with that.
Real quick, can you briefly touch base on the Supreme Court case that just passed around developer fees and its impact to this potential issue?
So I did reach out to legal counsel. We do have a representative online if we need additional information. But essentially, and this has been consistent across bulletins that have come out from legal counsels who advise schools, and it is addressed in here that we do not expect any immediate impact from the Supreme Court ruling, and it's very likely that it really wouldn't have an impact on us in the long term. We charge fees based on a square foot basis, not on a per unit. And there are justification studies done to make sure that there is a correlation. There is that nexus between the number of students that would potentially be generated from housing and the impact that that would have on a school and the need. And so it's really a double-edged sword, because yes, we need the housing, but if we don't charge the fees as we're allowed to under law, then we essentially are not holding, we have the potential to not be holding up our fiduciary responsibility to the students that we have here. Additionally, excuse me, there is a potential concern that by waiving or reducing fees for particular individuals or in general, it is possible that it could be considered a gift of public funds. And that was based on legal counsel advice as well.
Somebody else have a question? Go ahead.
So I see that our F3, it's online. Do you concur in the assessment on the gifting of public funds?
Yes, we are the ones who drafted the memo that contained that precaution that it could be a gift of public funds.
Thank you. And if we were to do that, what would the penalties of a school district be like for something like that?
Oh, goodness. I'd have to do some research into that as far as the impact, as far as development impact fees go. But obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is penalty, obviously monetary penalties, and perhaps even reputation.
Thank you.
It's hard to understand gifting funds they never received, but it seems like this is part of a effort. The city of Santa Rosa's kind of bought into the effort of dealing with the housing crisis. It's now in discussion with the county of Sonoma. Housing is a very real issue. I think what we're seeing is, or at least the information that's been shared with us, is that the construction that's been happening post-fires is decreasing. There's an anticipation that development will decrease as the costs get higher. That impacts not only our enrollment, but also potentially the fees that we collect. So I think that's the worrisome part. Like, will development decrease to the point where we're collecting less? I'm curious as to how much we've collected this fiscal year. I think the information on there was for the last year. Do we know how much we've collected this year so far?
Reasonable to historical trends. It's fairly consistent to those numbers, I would say.
We can get you exact numbers, but we expect to be on track for over $2 million again this year. Which again, one of the items that we do have that we need to expand and is to remove our portables and to replace with transitional kindergarten classrooms at a cost of $22.5 million, which is about roughly 18% of the elementary bond funds available.
Trustee La Torre.
So I really appreciate the robust conversation and diving deeper into this, but I just do have to share that with our current state of our budget, I have grave concerns of continuing to delay this and kick this down the road when it is a potential revenue increase. We do have to search every avenue on what is viable to bring any revenue into our school district to provide opportunities for our families. So it's really important that we have all the information possible to make these decisions and not feel like we're rushed or pushed into a situation. But that's also concerning because it continues to delay the opportunities to provide any additional revenue.
Can I add to that? I feel the exact same way. And I don't feel prepared, to be honest, to make a decision tonight about this, because I feel like there are a lot of unanswered questions for me, and I know that there is an opportunity to receive more information that will be coming up. But I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I feel the exact same way, that if there's an opportunity to to boost our revenue, we should do that because we need it. But I feel like there's still a lot of missing information.
So unfortunately, we've removed this from our agenda once before and have delayed this already. And there will be an informational series in May through SCO, but that's that 60-day window. Until we make a decision, we will not receive increased revenue for up to 60 days. So we're at a really crucial point, and it's up to us to decide whether we want to continue to wait or not.
Also, can you tell us the cost of postponing?
So I just messaged legal counsel to ask if we would need to hold another public hearing or not, if we postpone, because I don't know the answer to that. She said she believes that we would, but we would need to confirm. Each time that we do that, it costs us roughly $1,000 in publishing fees and, public noticing. There's a lot that it's not just we'll postpone it. There are a lot of things that have to happen on the back end. And so there is definitely a cost in the, in means of staff time as well as actual cost. And of course, the revenue that the other districts collect that doesn't come to us.
Anybody else? Okay, I think, yeah, I think I'm kind of feeling like Trustee Manietti in the sense that I'm very curious as to what is the information that's going to be shared at that forum or whatever that the superintendent of the county superintendent that held that I hear is with Supervisor Rabbit and also capital advisors from the legal perspective. I feel like we need more information just on the future part. I understand that in delaying this, any of the districts that have already passed the resolution, such as I believe Roseland passed one this past week, they would collect that difference in fees. So it's fees that we lose out on. No developers are saving any fees because regardless if any district passes them within that area, they're being charged those fees. So in terms of anybody being gifted anything, nobody's being gifted anything, I think. I do have a question, having kind of skimmed through the justification study. Could you summarize the justification? Because well, I won't comment on what I felt. The justification for imposing these fees in the legal context.
Sure. The justification study really has to do with the impact on the needs at school. So it would be increased enrollment or needing to renew for the students that will continually come in. So even in a declining enrollment environment, you still have to provide correct facilities for the students, the new students that come in. And so an example would be furniture. That much of our furniture is honestly from the 90s. I know it looks the same as when I went to school, even though I wasn't up here, I was in another area. And those are things that can be addressed with developer fees, are not just physical items. As we bring students back from SCO programs or we become a more regionalized opportunity for our other partner districts, we need classrooms that are fitted, for those special needs students. Those things, all of those items have been funded recently with our developer fees. So that's just kind of the impact of, the increased student population that comes in that's generated from typical housing. So for instance, high density housing or affordable housing typically generates about 10, I believe it's 10 times the number of students as a traditional single family home. And so the type of housing, again, like I said, in a small area will have a inordinate or a disproportionate impact on that local school compared to schools spread throughout the area or the district.
Just so that the board is able to make an informed decision, when is the forum that the county superintendent's having? Do we know the date?
Other than a community member who shared that information with us, I have not received any confirming information from the county superintendent, other than a direct conversation with her that they have an interest in providing information to a particular community organization, of which I know that the outside entity that SCO is hoping to work with would be encouraging districts to go with the higher fees.
Okay. So with that,
So with that, I just cannot in sound mind continue to delay not having incoming revenue appropriate to the district. So I'm going to make a motion of approval for resolution number 2023-24-35 for the elementary district and number 2023-24-36 high school district to establish an increase in SRCS developer fee rates.
Second.
Trustee Manetti, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just had a couple more questions. If we do pass this tonight, can we revisit this at another time? I'm really curious to know what this SCO-hosted event is going to tell us. And if it turns out to be something than what we assume, then I'd like to know if we can revisit this conversation.
The board could always choose to pass a resolution to do something different, to waive fees or reduce fees, which had been done in the past related to fires, to specifically waiving some fees for developments, related to rebuilding. So the board can definitely take a different action at a later date. It would just really be how that was brought forward and what that looked like. It wouldn't necessarily be to overturn a resolution. It would be for a specific thing if that's what the board chose to do. Again, you have 60 days before the rates actually go into effect.
Okay, and one last question. If for some reason this doesn't pass tonight, but we come back to this conversation, can we have our resolution be retroactive to a certain date? No, it has to be the date that it's, that meeting, the date of that meeting. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Other comments, discussion?
I think the stark reality is the ultimate negative impact of increasing these fees would persuade developers to not develop in our area because of the fees. I just don't see that as a reality. The land's there, the land's going to develop, somebody's going to pay these fees. I don't see an increased fees to help our school districts as deterring developers from progressing with development, if that's the main thing we're concerned about. I put the motion out there. We've had some discussion. If we approve this tonight, we have 60 days to get more information and make a different resolution if required. But that's a big window of waiting if we do not pass it tonight.
So just since we got legal on, I just want to clarify, are we only allowed to raise the fees once every 2 years?
No, what I believe is every 2 years is that the state board, the state allocation board will come out with ability to raise it. And then I think as long as you stay within that framework, then you're okay.
And once we raise them, there's nothing that limits us reversing that or anything.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no further discussion, we already did public comment in the public hearing, so let's go to the vote.
Was it Trustee Flores who seconded the vote?
Yes, Trustee De La Torre made the motion, Trustee Flores made the second.
Thank you. Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to what's listed on the agenda as F2, which is now F4. A resolution for Teacher Appreciation Week being May 6th through May 10th of 2024.
I just wanted to say thank you and Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good evening, President Medina, Superintendent Chanel, members of the board, members of the public that are here with us tonight, as well as listening online. Thank you for this opportunity. I have with me tonight my two directors, my Director of Certificated Staffing, Sydney Smith, and my Director of Classified Staffing, Jesse Olson, and they will be assisting me in presenting these resolutions tonight.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to recognize our teachers. We could not, of course, be here without them. They do the hard work in the district, the heavy lifting. I would like to reiterate something that Catherine Howell said earlier, which is that a lot of the work they do is late at night when nobody sees them, when nobody's watching. So we really want to recommend to the board that we pass this resolution recognizing Teacher Appreciation Week, May 6th through the 10th, because we know that education is the grand and powerful profession. We all know that knowledge is power, and without our teachers, our students wouldn't have it.
Okay, so with that, we'd like to ask the board to approve Resolution 2023-24-62 to recognize the week of May 6th to 10th as Teacher Appreciation Week.
Thank you. We have no public comment. Board, do you have any questions or discussion? Nobody? Well, first off, thank you. Second of all, teachers, I appreciate you. Sometimes it might not seem like it, but I really do. And I just wanted to share, give a little shout out to my all-time favorite teacher, who was my French teacher at LC Allen, that Miss Linda Conley, who I know that she had a great impact on me because even if you don't know, I have epilepsy, and one time when I was just zoned out in an epileptic seizure, precursor, roaming around LC Island, going back and forth, I kept going to her classroom over and over and over again, which just told me that she was deeply ingrained in me, and she was my safe space. Teachers have a great impact on our students. I think you're probably some of the most important adults in our students' lives, so you're appreciated. And it should be all year round, not just May 6th to the 10th. So with that, board, would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2023-24-62, recognizing May 6th through 10th, 2024 as Teacher Appreciation Week. And cannot express my love and gratitude more for teachers and how proud I am that I am now the father of a teacher. And it is such a highly respected position. So thank you for all you do, teachers.
Second.
Moved by Trustee De La Torre, seconded by Trustee Manieri. Any further discussion?
I do. I just want to say that as we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude and thank you to all the teachers for their tireless work and dedication, efforts in shaping the minds of and the hearts of our future generations. You are the guiding light in our children's lives, empowering them with the knowledge, fostering their curiosity, and instilling in them the values that shape their lives and characters. Your commitment to their growth, both academically and personally, it is beyond remarkable. Through your patience, understanding, and unwavering support, you create a safe and nurturing environment where children can thrive and discover the true potential that they have within themselves. You go above and beyond, and not just in the classroom. As a school counselor, I can attest to this, but in every single aspect of our children's lives. Your impact extends far beyond the scores and grades. You inspire a love for learning, ignite passion and exploration, and encourage creativity and critical thinking. You are not just teachers. You are mentors, role models, and cheerleaders, shaping the future leaders of our society. Especially in these challenging times, you have shown immense resilience and adaptability, embracing new technologies, as I hear from a lot of my coworkers, innovative teaching methods to ensure the learning never stops. Your dedication to our students' dedication is beyond belief. So in this special week that we are here, dedicating and honoring you, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your commitment to the growth and success of our children. Thank you for your passion, for your patience, and for your belief in the potential of every single student, no matter where they come from, no matter the zip code. Your impact is immeasurable, and you are forever great, and we are forever grateful for the incredible work that you do. Wishing you joyful Teacher Appreciation Week, filled with love, appreciation, and recognition for all the hard and thankless work that you do day in and day out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank yourself. That said, let's go to the vote. Moved by Trustee La Torre, seconded by Trustee Manieri. The vote.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you. We will now move on to our next item on the agenda. It's a resolution for Classified School Employee Week, May 19th through 25th of 2024.
Excellent. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk about classified staff. I've been with the district for about 7 months and have had a chance to meet many of our classified employees, and I have to say I'm really impressed by the breadth and depth of their skills, of their experience, and of their expertise in so many different facets of our district. But what I'm mostly impressed with is the passion that they bring every day in support of our students. A lot of the work they do is behind the scenes and isn't necessarily seen by students or other staff sometimes, but it is absolutely crucial to the programs and services that our district is able to provide. And so with that, I'd like to bring this resolution forward.
Thank you. Board, question, comments? No. I gotta say again, thank you to all our classified staff. Play a critically important role in our schools, supporting not only our teachers, but everybody. I think now more than ever, I'm really thankful for our campus supervisors, student advisors, or specialists that are having a great impact right now. But I always take a special moment to highlight our custodians, because I think having clean schools is so important, and they do such a good job at making sure that our kids have a clean place to study. So with that said, is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution recognizing Classified School Employee Week, May 19th to 2024.
Second, and with that, I have a little spiel to say. I just want to say thank you to our classified staff. I mean, you go above and beyond from your job titles. My dad was a mechanic. My sister was a custodian in San Francisco. I'm the only college, graduate in my immediate family. The friendly faces that our children see every day, from the cafeteria lady to the bus driver, the first people you see, and sometimes these are the last people you'll see in the day, is what make your day, our day. They're the glue that holds our community together, often working behind the scenes, going above and beyond without seeking recognition. Their hard work and commitment is not unnoticed. We noticed, children noticed. In times of uncertainty, such as challenging, in times of uncertainty, uncertainties, such as challenges that we have faced recently. You have shown incredible resilience and adaptability. You have embraced change, ensuring our students' needs are met, regardless of where they're from. Your dedication, professionalism, and commitment to our students does not go unnoticed. So I just want to say thank you for the tireless work that you do day in and day out. To every single classified staff, thank you.
Any other comments? No? All right. I don't see any public comment. So we will go to the vote. It was moved by trustee Manieri, seconded by trustee Flores.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you. And now we will move on to the resolution recognizing guest teacher appreciation in May 2024.
Thank you. Last but not least, we have to like sandwich this, with our teachers, our classified folks in the middle, and our guest teachers. We really do want to recognize the amazing role that our guest teachers play for us. They are the ones who are filling in when others can't be at work, and we wouldn't be able to keep the classrooms open without them. Some of them stick around for long-term jobs, and many of us have seen how hard they work as well. So we recommend approval of this resolution, recognizing guest teacher appreciation in the month of May as well.
Thank you. Board, questions? Discussion, comment?
I do. I just, I didn't have something prepared, but I just have to say that being a substitute teacher, something is one of the most difficult and challenging jobs that you have. I've had teachers come back, after a year or two of teaching, thinking, I'm going to go back to my old classroom. And they come back and tell me that is the hardest thing they've ever done. So I just want to say to those out there, because they're usually, people with second jobs, or, they're just doing that out of the goodness of their heart, that they're not only helping our students, right? They're also helping those teachers that need the time off, those teachers that for whatever reason, they're sick, or they're on maternity leave, or they're on paternity leave. And I just want to say that without you there, we wouldn't be able to have the ability to continue the curriculum that teachers are set forth to do. So yet another thankless job, and I just want to say thank you to all those folks that volunteer their time, because I don't think we pay them enough to do that. So thank you.
I think I'd also like to add that, we have a national teacher shortage, and we've had issues here where we depend and rely on these guest teachers. Without you, we couldn't do what we have to do. So thank you for all you do, for stepping up, and for keeping us teaching these students. With that said, is there a resolution?
I move to approve the resolution.
Second.
And I said resolution, I meant motion. It's moved by trustee McNally, seconded by trustee Flores. Any further discussion? Let's go to the vote.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri, Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you for the presentations. We appreciate it. We are now going to move on to our next item. This is a discussion item on the Panorama Survey, Youth Truth Survey, attendance and discipline.
All right, good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Tranel. We really appreciate your welcoming us back to a board meeting to do one of our annual presentations. And tonight, the members of Wellness and Engagement and Information and Evaluation are here tonight to talk to you about Panorama, Youth Truth, and Discipline and Attendance. As we go through this information, this is obviously in alignment with our mission and vision and our priorities, taking a look at supporting the whole student. And so tonight we're here to share with you the annual update of the surveys that we take and what we are seeing in terms of our discipline and attendance compared to a little bit of a longitudinal exploration. I'm Stacy Desideri, the Executive Director of Wellness and Engagement, and here with me tonight is Eric Lofty, our Director of Mental Health and Community Schools, and Dr. Bardelli from Information and Evaluation. So we're going to start tonight by talking about the Social Emotional Wellness Survey, Panorama.
As we can see here, the next few slides are going to be outlining some findings from our social emotional screener Panorama. We've been using Panorama for the past 3 years and continue to get really high response rates that allow us to have a relatively high level of confidence in our results. As a reminder, our staff use Panorama to assess the social emotional learning of our students, evaluate our SEL efforts, and to create interventions that are targeted to students and students groups who need support. This is a slide. There's a lot of information on this slide. We wanted to provide all of our Panorama results at one glance. And here we can see the scores for students in K3 all the way up through 9th through 12th grade. It's important to note that this is not longitudinal data about any specific students. This is a snapshot of any grade. So we can see that over time, students at each grade are improving from last year, those positive numbers below. There's one where classroom effort has gone down a little bit, but in general, we are seeing small increases of relatively consistent results. So important to note here is that the grade level a student is at seems to be a significant driver of SEL concerns. As students age, we see that those groups score lower with respect to challenging feelings, classroom effort, self-efficacy, and positive feelings. All of our students report relatively high strengths in their supportive relationships. When we compare our racial subgroups, we do see some continuation of patterns of concern. Our American Indian or Alaskan Native students continue to score lower across challenging feelings, classroom effort, and self-efficacy. Our Hispanic or Latino subgroup scores low in self-efficacy and of particular concern due to the connection. That's of particular concern to us due to the connection between self-efficacy and academic outcome. We can see here, this is a slide that talks about our English language learners. And we can see that in general, as students develop improved language skills as they move towards mastery of or passing proficiency, we can see that they experience lower challenging feelings, improved classroom effort, and higher self-efficacy.
So we'll transition now to talking about Youth Truth. So it's important to remember that when we think about the difference between the Panorama survey and the Youth Truth survey, the Panorama survey is one in which we look at a student's perception of their own social emotional health, where the Youth Truth survey looks outward at the consideration and the perception of the health of the school and the community. The Youth Truth is an anonymous survey that is taken not only by our students, but also by our families and our staff, where Panorama really only is an opportunity for students and for staff to give information and feedback. When we looked at our Youth Truth responses and participation this year, we did see a slight decline from years in the past. We had approximately 10,000 students participate, which is pretty good. It's 79%. Last year, we were closer to 87%. We had over 2,000 families participate in this survey, and while that participation rate does look very low, that's something we'd like to improve, that is a phenomenon experienced across the entire county, because the Youth Truth Survey is something that is taken across Sonoma County. It's a partnership with SCO, so that we can make some statements not only about Santa Rosa City Schools and our district, but also across Sonoma County and the other districts that are there as well. We had about 71% of our staff participate in this, and we did find that all of these surveys were conducted in January. So like last year, we wanted to replicate so that you could have the experience of comparing, kind of that same question. And we took a look at 2 questions last year: the perception of feeling safe at school and the perception of discipline feeling like it is fair. And what you see on this slide is a comparison over the last 3 years of that perception of safety at school and that perception of fairness in terms of discipline. We focused on middle and high school because in these 2 surveys, the questions were asked in a specific and distinct way, where at elementary, rather than asking, do you believe discipline is fair, the elementary students are asked, do you think your teacher is fair? And instead of being asked, do you feel safe at school, elementary school students are asked, do other students in your class behave? So we wanted to look at questions that had the same fidelity in terms of how the question was being asked. What we do see in the question of the perception of safety at school is that over the last 3 years, we have seen a decline. And that information is shared not only at the student level, but we do see that same sort of decline at both the staff level and the family level. So that is a consistent expression that we have seen. Contrasting that, we are seeing that the perception of fairness in terms of discipline has stabilized from across middle and high school. And when asking families and staff, we have seen that either the information over the last years has either stayed the same or increased. So staff and families are reporting at least stable or more positive results in terms of fairness of discipline at school. This, similar to that third slide with panorama, is a slide that takes a little bit of time to really explore and consider, because we took the same 2 questions, that perception of safety at school and the perception of fairness of discipline, and we broke that down by the race and ethnicity of our participants. Again, the blue bars are showing the percentages of middle school students who report feeling safe at school, and the discipline the same, and the red bars are the responses at high school. What you see here as we take a look at this information is that whenever there was a statistically significant group, they're reflected here. And you are seeing that with some notable exceptions, middle schoolers are expressing a little bit more of a less positive experience than our high school students. And we are seeing that relatively consistently, that high school is saying that they feel more positive about discipline, and in most cases that they are feeling safer at school than their middle school.
Real quick, could you just clarify those percentages? These numbers are a percent of the total students or a percent of the specific demographic?
Of that specific demographic. So if, for example, we are looking at the first line, American Indian or Alaskan Native, 5% of the students that are American Indian or Alaskan Native are reporting positive results, either 4s or 5s, on feeling safe at school. Of the ones who participated, yes.
I guess I'm just saying, like, I mean, just really quickly, maybe it's not making sense in my head, but seeing, for example, when I feel safe at school, the highest number here is 27%. And up here in the section above, well, I guess what year is this? It's the same year. Well, regardless, it's 44. It doesn't make sense to me that when the highest here is 27%, collectively it could be up to 44 on a percentage basis. So, I mean, that's why the numbers aren't making sense to me. So that's why I'm trying to get clarity.
Yeah, we'll have to go back, and what you can see is as you go through this, because we're trying to honor the time frame, there are significantly more slides after slide number 26, like an archive, where this information can get broken down into more detail. But so we can go back and look at a little more specifics at what you're asking here. But what you are seeing is you are seeing a decline, especially in those questions of feeling safe. How many students are reporting, they call it percent positive. So when we looked at the results that are coming from these specific questions, students are asked on a 1 to 5 Likert scale how much they feel. So what you're seeing here is this is broken down by race and ethnicity, the number of students who reported a percent positive. So when we look at all of the overall answers, there could be students that were reporting at the level of 3 that contribute to this looking slightly different than the overall numbers. I hope that that is helping.
Not really, but I just wanted to confirm. These are the January 2024 numbers on this slide?
Yes.
Okay. Fine.
So I know we're trying to be time sensitive here. But in terms of, so that slide says that 5% of our American Indian or Alaska Native, only 5% of those students feel safe at school. So 95% don't feel safe. Is that what I'm reading?
That means that 5% scored this as a 4 or a 5, that
Right.
almost always or always they feel safe at school. They may have scored like at a 3, like sometimes, and then, rarely, and then never. And so that doesn't mean that everybody that wasn't in this area scored at the never, but it means that most of the students in that subgroup were reporting that they were not in the percent positives.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Hi, good evening. Today I'm going to share with you updates on the discipline and attendance. The presentation will follow the same format that we had last May, so I'll try to go fast. So the first thing we are going to look at who was suspended this year so far. The numbers have been updated as of 18th, about 6 days ago. So far this year, 6% of our students were suspended at least once during the school year. That is equivalent to 628 students suspended once, and then the rest been suspended twice or more times. That number, the 627, is 73% of the whole suspension. So meaning that roughly 1 in 4 of our students is suspended once, 3 in 4, and 1 in 4 is suspended 2 times or more. That is an 11% improvement year to year. If you remember last year, that number was 64%. Now, when we look at suspensions over our by school level, middle school still remains the setting where we experience the most suspensions, with roughly 10% of our students being suspended at least once. And of course, elementary school is the environment where students are suspended the least at about 2%. To put this number into perspective, we can also, instead of looking at percentages, and see how many students, out of how many students is one student suspended. So here you can see that 1 in 9 middle schoolers experience suspensions this year, meaning that if you were to walk into a middle school class, you would expect about 3 students to have been suspended from that class. That is different from, for example, elementary school, where instead you need to visit 3 different classrooms to find the student that was suspended. This slide, I try to represent how students experience suspensions by their racial ethnic affiliation. There is a lot going on, so let me take a few seconds to explain this. So there are 3 colors here. In purple is the student, right? So it's one student that's been suspended. In black and gray is how many students that represents. So if we look at our Black or African American students, for example, we see that 1 in 14 students were suspended this year. In gray, you see the improvement from last year. So last year we had 1 in 9 Black African American students that were suspended. That has improved this year in 1 in 14. If you compare the size of those bars, though, you can still see that students experience differential suspensions based on their race ethnicity. Now, looking at what students were suspended for, 80% of all incidents fall in what we call the top 5 categories. These include physical injury, being intoxicated at school, use of force, harassment, and profanity. Now, profanity is a new code that is just made the top 5 this year, and that replaces defiance. As you can see, defiance now is just listed as the 8th most common code. Now, if we compare the number of incidents year to year over the past 3 years for this top 5 incidents category, we observe a 45% decrease in the total number of incidents in these top 5 categories. The numbers that we see, as you can see in the green bar for this year, are about what we experienced in 2021, 2022 in blue. Finally, I want to cover attendance patterns very quickly. Now, just to overview a little bit our code, because the code is very clear on attendance, students are expected to be at school every day. Our code allows some way for parents to excuse absences if those absences fall within certain circumstances outlined in the Ed code. Similarly, students become chronically absent if they are present at school for less than 90% of the time. This is regardless of whether they were excused or unexcused. So if they are not in school for more than 10% of the time, that means they are chronically absent. Moreover, Ed code also identifies students as truant if they are absent from school unexcused 3 times. So for 3 days unexcused, a student becomes truant, and we become the truancy process. So here, we are going to start from a breakdown over our racial ethnic categories. We are going to read this graph from left to right. So on the left, you see bars for students that are here 95% of the time or more. The second set of bars are students that are here between 90 and 95% of the time.
Both of those sets of bars,
Are good.
that's what we want. We want
Yes.
all students to be in the 90% or the 95%, because that means that they are not chronically absent and they are not experiencing any level of truancy.
Then the rightmost 2 bars or 2 sets of bars are students that are chronically absent. So here you can see some differences across the bars. Now, the things that stood out from us was the blue bar that identifies American Indian and Alaskan Native. You can see that these students are most likely to be absent more than 80%, being present less than 80% of the time.
And that happens to be that same trend of considering which students are having the least positive experience in our schools. We see that that is a particularly significant subgroup that is experiencing not a positive experience at school. And so on this final slide, it is important to celebrate the moments that we have accomplished. And what we are seeing is that greater than 73% of our student body is reporting attendance at higher than 90%. And to keep that in context, 2 years ago, we had a 39% chronic absenteeism rate. Last year, we improved and hit 35% chronic absenteeism. And at this point in the year, we are at 27% chronic absenteeism. So this has been a nice, steady improvement at helping re-engage our students at school. That has been a lot of information. And as I shared, we have a number of other slides just for context and understanding that are included in this presentation. But that is the summary of what we have heard through Panorama, Youth Truth, and Discipline and Attendance. We're here
Thank
for
you.
questions.
Before we go to questions, board, do you mind if I take one public comment? Okay, yeah, let's see, I have Deanna Olivares, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, Superintendent Board. As you know, I've been speaking up against these surveys for a few years now, and I want to remind the board that I disagree with the parental passive consent that you do. I do realize this is legal in California, but I think our district should strive for higher standards and be more transparent and ask every parent for an opt-in notice instead of an opt-out. These surveys are taken by teachers, I believe kindergarten through 3rd grade, because the children cannot administer themselves. I feel like that's going to very hugely skew the results. Teachers have a lot on their plate, and with public records requests that I've done, I've seen the push for these surveys. I've seen teachers be pushed by administrators and the company Youth Truth to give children attendance credit, and extra credit, which goes against Ed Code. Another issue that I have is on the contract portion, on all the contracts we have under the evaluation and metrics. This is used a lot. It says, we'll use Youth Truth survey question, do you feel safe and accepted at school? So you're using one question as a metric for a program that is in contract with the school district, and I think that's wildly inappropriate. Also, the questions they ask the kids, they don't ask their names, but they ask your sexual orientation. Have you smoked weed in the past month? Have you had sex? What religious beliefs you have, how you identify, what do you do after school, how many parents are in your household. They ask so many, what your GPA is. They ask you so many questions. It's almost like you obviously can easily identify these children, which I think is wildly inappropriate as well. They do ask if children are suicidal and give them a hotline, but I think that's pretty impersonal as well.
Thank you. Your time is up. Okay, board questions? Trustee De La Torre, then Trustee Flores.
Thank you guys for your presentation, and I appreciate seeing the data that incidents are down, but it's also very concerning to see the data that children are reporting a lower percentage of feeling safe or discipline being fair. And I just want an opportunity to look at this data and see where we are at with discipline. I've been on campuses with students, and students do not feel like restorative is discipline. They're not aligning those together. So what can we do differently to ensure we're aligning discipline and consequences appropriately, and what does that need to look like, opposed to saying you're in trouble, go through restorative. That just might not, that's not working for everybody. So we need to have other avenues for these children to get the help that they're asking for when they're acting out behaviorally.
Was that it? Trustee Flores?
I don't think I can let this go, because, as a counselor, and Eric, you're a therapist, right? Suicidal ideation is really, something, that we need to take, into account. There's been an old school of thought from back when, that you couldn't, the fact that you would ask these sort of questions would intimate that someone would be more likely to commit suicide, which is completely, misinformation. So before I ask my questions, could you briefly talk about the importance about making sure that we give the support that students need in terms of suicidal ideation before I go into this, because there was a comment made that it's completely, I don't want the misinformation to be out there in terms of suicidal ideation.
So May is Mental Health Month, and so the next time I come up, we'll be providing a resolution to that effect. And we want to seek to fight against common misconceptions about suicide and about talking about them. The importance of having gatekeeper training, the importance of having many of our staff, when they're concerned about students, to be asking them if they are feeling down, if they've been feeling like they want to hurt themselves or go to sleep and never wake up. Those are important questions to ask, and they do not increase. In fact, they decrease the epidemiology of suicide in populations. We do not, in these in-personal surveys, directly ask students if they are feeling suicidal. That is not, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, so that is not a way that we are doing suicide screening, is through these surveys. We are looking to assess for social emotional strengths and perceptions of their school. So the social emotional strengths is what we're measuring with the panorama, and perceptions of the school community and their experience there are what we're measuring there. To the best of my knowledge, we do not do the dangerous behaviors survey that is an option of the Youth Truth Survey, but that we've opted not to do that because it does go into some of those more personal questions about student drug and alcohol use. It is general and more about their perception of their peers' use, not personal to them.
We do have a number of other mechanisms that are built in with our school district that actually do screening for the suicidal ideation. The PQR program at the QPR, sorry. I had it spelled wrong. The QPR program that is offered at 9th grade that helps. We have staff, not only the counselors, but school-based therapists and administrators that have been trained in monitoring and observing the types of things that might flag. And we have a very healthy partnership with community organizations, both through the partnership with Santa Rosa City and the In Response community response team, the mobile response in mental health crisis. So we have a variety of different ways that we monitor and screen for students who might be at risk. It's always multidisciplinary to engage a variety of different expertise in order to help protect our students. This survey is one way that we might identify students who are starting to feel like they may need support before it can become a crisis.
Thank you. I mean, that was my follow-up question, so thank you. In terms of, here's my question, and see, I'm trying to see if it's included here, but in slide 19, I love the fact that you had the disproportionality matrix in here. Let's see. Yeah, suspension is disproportionality by race. Is it possible to have this by school? Or at least, by grade, by levels, like elementary, middle school, and high school levels? That would be helpful to have that information.
I can provide it as an information item on next board agenda.
And then once we have that information, in our informational items, if we can have a follow-up, superintendent, to make sure, to see if we identify, places where, or groups or levels that may need extra help. Okay.
I do want to make sure that as we begin to create this by school, that we recognize that some of the subgroups that could be represented at a school might be so small that sharing that information may inadvertently divulge personal student information. So we will, as we create this, you may not see the same level of granularity for each school.
Right. I understand that, that's part of statistics. If we have less than, what is the sample, what is it, 10%, right? So we can't, okay. So I completely understand that. And the other one is, we know that our LGBTQ students are highly at risk, right? And I like to see if those students who self-identify as LGBTQIA are at risk, and what sort of services or support services we can provide to assist students. Okay, thank you.
So for me, I have, while we're on this slide, the suspension disproportionality by race, there's two that don't have any of the gray. I'm curious, did those stay the same or did they get worse?
So for multi-ethnic, they stay the same, was 1 in 14th last year and 1 in 14th this year. For American Indian and Alaska Native, actually they declined. I believe they were 1 in 9 last year, and this year we went in 1 in 7. Now, for this group in particular, I just want to point out it's a very small group where we just have 13 suspended students out of 96, and any one suspension will change that number a lot. I think since I started working on this presentation, I had to change this group twice.
And I think following Trustee Flores' comments, I think if we break it down not only by elementary, middle, and high school, but if we break it down by actual schools, I'm curious to see, are there some schools that really improved and some that maybe didn't? And having that data and understanding would actually, I think, be important. I did want to go back to, it was the second suspension slide, the one that says the big 73% on top. I just wanted to clarify what's meant by improvement. I heard you mention a 64% and the 73%. I heard 64 and I'm like, going to 73, that doesn't seem like an improvement, but maybe I misunderstood.
So last year, 64% of our students were suspended once, meaning that the rest were suspended more than once. This year, 73% of our students were suspended once, meaning that we have more students that were suspended just once. So less students that were suspended more than once. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I thought that's what you meant.
Yeah,
Just wanted
and
to be sure.
just to restate, what this means is that of all the students who were suspended this year, 73% of them were only suspended one time and did not reoffend or did not have a second follow-up. Last year, only 64% only were suspended one time. So that's not 73% of all students. It's 73% of the students suspended.
And I'm curious if we've looked at how we compare to state levels, because I know historically this district has had a bad history in the past. How we've been improving, how we've been getting better. Do we have any of that data, or could that be provided in the future?
I think we would need to prepare that in the future. We're not prepared to speak to that specifically today.
And, in going back to the youth truth responses on student perceptions of January 22, 23, and 24, I'm just seeing seems like between 22 and 23, there was a larger drop in students feeling safe than from 23 to 24. And I'm curious if there's any insight into what could have gone on in between those 2 years that really added to that perception.
I think that one of the advantages to a survey like Panorama With Panorama, you can actually look and connect a response to an individual student. So you're able to contextualize why a student may have had a more positive experience one year compared to the other. The disadvantage to Youth Truth is because Youth Truth is a completely anonymous survey. We cannot go back to these particular answers and be able to say, well, of the 79% of all middle school students who actually responded to the survey, what might they have experienced that would have created the drops? So it's more difficult to contextualize due to the anonymity of Youth Truth. But we are able to take a look and see those kinds of comparisons across the county.
And the other thing that I was just in my head trying to maybe grasp or understand is kind of impacts of like COVID. I see like, each year as you go and you go, like there's the seniors are gone that are no longer part of the data. They keep leaving. And so there's a different set of students that are contributing to that. So, I mean, I imagine it would require more years of data, which I don't know if we have, but I'm wondering if there's any way to kind of gather some of that impact somehow.
I do want to add that we need to be mindful too that the cohort of students year over year is changing. So it's not apples to apples, if you will. It's different sets of students. There are some common, and I just want to caution us to try and suppose why all of the connections. There could be some very personal reasons that actually aren't necessarily connected as a catalyst from the school. That could be an outside environmental factor. And also the state of mind of the students when they took the survey at the time. So fully recognizing that it is not okay, we do not feel comfortable that we have seen this decline over years, even cohort to cohort. That is something we are paying attention to. I think it will be on us to do some deeper work, as has been described by this board even previously, on how we do some focus groups and other connections to understand more around the why.
I think it's also important to recognize, and this was not part of today's presentation, is the reported decline in a perception of safety is not unique to Santa Rosa City Schools. And when we look at the county-wide synthesis of their reports, both families and certain subgroups in the school staff were also reporting declines in perceptions of school safety, and the students as well. So this is, and elementary did show some gains in that topic, but in middle and high school, both families, staff, and students, it is not a phenomenon unique to Santa Rosa.
Any other, Trustee Manieri?
Thank you. I really appreciate the way that this data is being presented. I feel like it's made it easier to kind of digest and process. I feel like I'm going to be processing this for a while, but I would actually like to hear from you as a team what this data is telling you, and what the path forward looks like for our district, understanding the numbers in front of us and understanding that these aren't numbers, they're students, they're children. So I'd like to hear from you if that's possible.
Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, it was really important to us to bring forward information that could show trends that we're comfortable with. Obviously, we've been really working hard in wellness and engagement to improve student attendance, and we feel pretty good about those actual changes that will start actually making differences for our entire district. And we're really concerned about the decrease in perceptions around safety, and very much want to continue coming here because we intend to show those improving over time, because we do believe that they're going to, but we have to bring awareness of the concern, and we have to work together as a community to address those types of things. And I'm also really enjoy the fact that we've got multiple years of panorama data, and that we can start checking our interventions with students and groups of students based on that information. And so that's something that gives our teams, multiple teams, different focuses, different levels of intervention. It gives them common information and then common language to talk about the things that we hope will drive student social emotional learning, which will drive student social emotional wellness, which ideally will decrease the number of students that we're seeing in mental health care situations, decrease the number of students who we have to do suicide assessments on. So using that information to common purpose with multiple intervention groups and at multiple levels is something I'm really excited about.
So I will kind of jump on the importance of this data. One of the things that we are beginning to see across not only our work at the district level, but pushing out into the sites is not simply administration of these surveys, but actual functional use of these surveys. So following the Panorama survey in the fall, we had multiple school sites asking for trainings to be able to take that information and be able to identify those students that are physically on their campus who were saying through the October participation, look at me, I need some more attention. How can they find and serve? We talked a lot about a search and serve model. Don't wait until a student is showing their disconnection through discipline or through disengagement or academic failure. Find them while they're still sitting quietly, whispering through a panorama that I don't know that I have an adult who is there with me. Another thing that we touched on a little bit, we are seeing that trend where as someone's language development improves, we are seeing that they are reporting on these surveys that they are having a more positive experience at school. So you are hearing from our educational services program an increased focus on the EL master plan. We know that that is not going to simply have an academic impact on our students, but that it's going to really look to and speak to a more positive experience. And then I have two more. Sorry, don't invite me to give feedback. It is important to recognize that although we see the Alaskan Native and American Indian population was very visible in each one of these areas as being a group that is statistically in need. And they are a small group. And while at first glance that seems like it can be negative, it is a group that because of its size, we can do some very intensive work and be able to do some deeper connections and hopefully be able to move the needle. But this is obviously going to be a group of students that are going to get a lot of attention because regardless of what metric we're looking at, we're seeing that this is a group in need. So although this is an uncomfortable reality, I think it's important to do this conversation so that we don't miss an opportunity simply because it might be a small group statistically. And finally, and this might feed into what you're going to say, discipline laws change. And we have invested over the last few years a significant increase in the amount of training on what are these laws, how are they evolving, how do we document, and by doing so, we are increasing our calibration across schools. And the staff and the families are reporting that they are seeing that that is resulting in a perception of increased fairness when we look at discipline. And we will be seeing that that will result in documentation that has a higher fidelity.
I'd like to add, again, I just said that we need to be cautious about like delving into what, we don't even know what the definition that each individual understands to be what safe is to them. right? It could be that bathroom that has been in horrible condition that we've been renovating, right? That could be an interpretation of safety. It could be food scarcity that that's one interpretation of safety. I think our students are very impressionable. And if our students are experiencing perceptions and specifically a particular viewpoint and perception of our schools, that also can contribute to how they are feeling about safety. So I think it's really important for us, as we have been trying to help with our narrative and highlight the positive things that are going on and shine a bright light on our students who are thriving. We also want to be mindful of this data and what does it mean, which means we have some more work to do, which means we have to get to know our students. And we know that we have adults in our system that do that every day, and asking them, what can we do to make them feel and have them feel safe in our schools? And I think that's where that one-to-one, that connection, the relationship building that we're already doing, that's hopefully what's going to make a difference for us going forward.
I think the other question, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just kind of wanted to conclude my thought. You beat me to the punch, Stacy, talking about discipline laws. I was also going to bring that up and definitely caution us that when we're talking about punitive measures like suspension, that we really need to be careful about what we're saying, because the data is showing us that students of color are disproportionately affected by those measures. And so I thank you for bringing that up, because we have state guidance that is telling us that that should be the last resort and that there should be other measures taken. So I look forward to more conversations about that. And thank you, Superintendent Trinnell, for reminding us that safety means different things to different people.
And what I was going to ask is, as it relates to absenteeism, a comment that somebody made earlier talked about activities for kids, right? And I think about what makes kids want to come to school, what engages them. And I'm worried about disparities within our schools in terms of the amount of activities, the amount of resources for students to engage in, things that make them want to come to school. And I'm wondering if we could somehow kind of look at and evaluate what are those opportunities and what are those resources that students have, and how do they correlate with absenteeism within the various campuses. Trustee Flores.
Going off on a tangent here. So I remember when you first came here and asked us to approve the program, right? It was either co-vitality or this. Actually, you came in with co-vitality, and then we asked you to go back and search for another one. You came up with Panorama because it had the ability to do the service in different languages, right? So my question to you is, do we have? You don't have to. If you don't have this information, that's fine. I'd like to have this information later. Do we have information in terms of how many of our newcomers or students who don't speak English have taken the tests in their native language? Because I don't see it here, but if you have that, that would be, I'd like to see how many of our students have taken advantage of that feature of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can provide that information. And also, as a point of clarification, at the time, Co-Vitality was not able to give us the student subgroup breakdown, which we understood to be a priority is a priority from us, but also from our board.
Right, that's right. Thank you.
Before I get to you, Trustee Latorre, would somebody entertain a motion to extend the meeting another 30 minutes? To 10:30.
Just so you know, we don't have to stay till 10, just in case, but I'd like to extend the meeting till 10, what time is it?
10:30.
10:30.
Is there a second to that?
Do we need a second? I second.
Okay, second. Are there any objections? None?
Yes.
All right. Meeting's been extended. Trustee Latorre.
So one thing that was very concerning to see in last May's presentation, and I don't see it this year, and hopefully, but that's because it's down, is we had data last year showing instances of double-digit suspensions per student. Have those instances gone down? It sounds like it has with the percentages you're discussing, but I want to ensure that the services we're providing are providing opportunities for those students to have learned behavior and not have repetitive suspensions for similar or different events.
I believe is slide 16, that you see the breakdown, and that at the bottom is the number of times that a student was suspended. And so far, we have 5 students that were suspended 8 times, 5 students suspended 7 times, and 4 students suspended 6 times. And then, the rest.
And what are we doing with those situations?
So there's a number of different things. Depending on who the student is, there are mechanisms that get put into place anytime a student starts to rack up high numbers. If you are knowledgeable with special education, any student who has been suspended for 10 or more days, if they either are served with IEP services or 504 services, they have a specialty meeting that is called a manifestation determination that takes a look at why might this student be receiving, the higher levels of suspensions? Are those related either to the disability, or are we feeling that the support programs, either the 504 or the IEP, are not being fully implemented? This year, we are piloting a new program, which we are, for lack of a better name, referring to as a general education manifestation process. And in our partnership with Information and Evaluation, we have created reports in which every school can monitor the number of students, or the names of students who have received multiple days of suspension. And schools are beginning to do a tier 2 meeting for any student who is approaching 10 days of suspension in order to honor the exact same process and ask the question of the people who know that student better. Why is this student continuing to have problems and demonstrating a concern at school? Because as a community, we agree that behavior is a representation of some unmet need. And if there's 100 students, there's 100 different reasons. And so we are starting to invest our time in a multidisciplinary exploration of why that student might be struggling. It's a brand new process, and we are experimenting with that process right now, finessing it. It was an idea born out of our partnership with Dr. Brown and his look at equity. So we are asking not, is this a manifestation of a disability, but is this a manifestation of some sort of intersectionality of who that student is?
I think it's so important to stay focused on that because these students are crying for help for a reason. These behavioral patterns are speaking volumes to what they're dealing with internally. And I don't like seeing numbers of these multiple suspensions. It just feels like we're not connecting or reaching.
Agreed.
The other thing that I'd actually, in terms of discipline, the only thing that we really see here is suspensions. And I'm also just curious how many of those end up turning into expulsions. And specifically, I'm looking at it in the context of kind of like when we were advocating for the end of zero tolerance policies, we were looking at the fiscal impact. What is the fiscal impact of this as a discipline policy versus, I think, an ed code? I've been seeing other options such as in-house suspension or Saturday school or different things, which I think they require staffing. But I mean, in terms of weighing the fiscal impact versus the staffing and the effectiveness, I know one of the criticisms of suspensions that comes even from students is that, well, students get a little vacation, right? So I think maybe looking at that side of it, the fiscal side at some point, would be something that I'd be interested in knowing more about for the future. Any other questions from the board? So just before we move on from this item, I think there was one kind of info request for the future meeting. Was that gathered and that'll show? Oh, okay. Okay, there's maybe like 10
Yeah,
things.
I have that there's actually three. There was an interest in disproportionality by school or disproportionality by grade band, and then exploration of the group of self-reported LGBT. So looking at those experiences as well.
Also, how do we compare to the state
Thank you.
on this? So there's many others. We will
Yes.
follow
Thank you.
up.
So they've been captured. All right, that's cool. Anything else, board? If not, thank you for that information and presentation. We will now move on down the agenda to our consent items, and I'm looking for a motion to approve items G1 through G10 and G12.
Motion to approve items G1 through 10 and G12.
Second.
Moved by trustee La Torre, seconded by trustee Flores. The vote?
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you. And so G11 had one question as it related to the, I believe it was the admin services cost that wasn't in the total. I think the total is listed as 8,000, but I think it had a 24% admin cost that wasn't there, and also the tax that was included in some of the other contracts. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to approve a higher amount.
Thank you, President Medina. Yes, I know that we struggled a little bit with how to word specifically that item, because the way that that contract is set up is that it is a minimum cost of $8,000 for food and beverage to waive the $8,000 fee for the venue. But then, yes, there are those other charges on top of that. The terms are included in the contract that's attached. So as long as the terms of the contract are approved, we're okay with the item as is, but we will be more cognizant of how we word those, the cover sheets in the future to be more clear.
So just clarity, we're approving the contract, we're not necessarily approving the amount.
Correct.
Okay. And the amounts on all these seemed interesting, where one's like almost 10 times the other. That was very, yeah.
Yeah, and the difference with each of those is that these are student directed. So they're funds that are raised by the students, they're activities that are chosen by them. And so the variety of experience that they're opting for will vary substantially by site.
Okay. And all these listed ASB funds, and we have no rollover ASB funds, right?
Correct. It's really because there is, any agreement is still with the Santa Rosa City Schools, but the funds are actually controlled by the students themselves with advice and guidance from the advisors, the principal, and then us just for the legality side of it.
Cool. That's all I had. Is there a motion to approve item G11?
I move to approve G11.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? I mean, the vote, sorry.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move on to approval of the minutes. Item H1.
Motion to approve minutes of regular board meeting held on April 10th, 2024.
Second.
Moved by trustee La Torre, seconded by trustee Flores. Let's go to the vote.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
Trustee McNally.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Now H2, approval of minutes of the special board meeting held on April 17th.
I move to approve the minutes of the special board meeting on April 17th.
Second.
Moved by trustee Manieri, seconded by trustee La Torre.
Student Board Member Rao.
Aye.
Trustee Manieri.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee McNally, Aye. Trustee Flores,
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Well, now moving on to the board request for information, are there any requests? Trustee Manieri?
Yeah, I'd like an update where we are or where SCO is with the APA program. Thank you.
The what program?
APA or APA, APPA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you raise your hand, Trustee Flores? Okay. And just to clarify, we're getting a report on the Prop 28 stuff soon, or?
Prop 28.
Okay. And let's see, no other information requests? Okay, J information items are listed, F1, F2, F3. Let's see, I think there was a slide in there under F4 that was requested at the last board meeting. School site reports are there. That's it. Anything you'd like to say before we shut her down? We didn't need that extension of time. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.